Yeah. My breath works. This is where I insert the part where I point out the obvious. How cozy this is. Interesting standpoint. Moving on. I am well, you see, education, yeah. It's a good E word. Really different from like 10 hours ago. But that's the internet. You're going to find those other things first. So, education. Really difficult. Really difficult. Education. Just learning, literally. But the thing is like, still advertisements. And I'll be serious with that one. I really genuinely okay. There's features. This is a good word. Properties is worth putting in this same time has literally just whoa, you know, like 2021 That literally is our... Okay. Well. Looking inward is just an utter rainbow right now. I wouldn't know how to just look outward any other way than I wouldn't want to. Let's get Lex. Yeah. Let's see what goes on.
Experience the biggest series. I've been quested with returning this child to the Jedi.
Yeah. Philosopher's
This is
Pain.
Tavarish New Year's Eve. So you talked about secession and the world burning down, and you holding the match at the end,
Yes, sir.
standing with a big smile on your face.
Yes. Why so serious?
But let me ask you, if it doesn't include flame and secession and destruction and a laughing malice and makeup and a white suit at the end, how do we bring more kindness and love to the world in 2021?
Oh, easy. Be comfortable saying, I want to be happy. And if there's someone who interjects and gives you attitude, arm's length them. Surround yourself with people who also want to be happy. Here's a great example. My buddy Chris Williamson, who I mentioned before, he's a podcaster who does modern wisdom. He's an awesome dude, and we became friends, very close friends. this past year. And he was in Dubai recently, and he sent me pics from Dubai by the pool, just loving life. And it took me a week, and then it clicked in my head. And I'm like, you know what? For some other people, if they saw him underwear model at the pool, they would think this is him bragging or humble bragging. And that never entered my head. I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad my boy could be having a good time and is sharing his joy with me. That's the kind of people you need to surround yourself with.
Yeah, that was
where
some
it never
funny
enters
shit.
their head to be resentful or anything other than sharing in your bounty.
Dude, I'm on a journey, man. Yo, like...
I'm happy all the time. And
Yeah,
one of
but,
the
like-
points I made in my life is like I really did not like to give advice because I feel don't give advice until you know what you're talking about.
No, like...
And to me, what makes me happy is being self-actualized.
I
am in a position
I'm interacting
with my
with
career
you, man.
where I could be myself 24/7, where I never have to engage in small talk, where I never have to interact with someone I don't want to. And I'm very blessed to have that. Very few people have that. And to have that be not only, to have that be like rewarded and having people find that something of value to them makes me very, very happy. But also being an uncle, you know, I have two little nephews. They make me very, very happy. Sure, my sister's raising them Russian, so they talk like immigrants, but that's okay. We're going to change that. If we have to dismember her, that's fine. That makes me
No,
happy.
savage.
To be able to
Trauma.
finish this book and know it's going to give people a sense of hope, that's really validating.
Oh, you're moving quick, bud.
What are you most grateful for our conversation today?
You're stealing my bit. What am I most grateful for? I am very grateful that I can come in here not knowing what we're going to talk about and know it's not going to be something I have to be on guard about or I have to watch my words, and that neither you or
Right.
your audience is going to be responding derisively.
Oh, I have an audience
I
now?
feel safe here.
Oh, well.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good, man. That's
Thank you.
awesome, man. I'm
Thanks
really
for
glad to
talking,
hear
man.
that. I
That's
am,
awesome.
dude. Wow. Lex, that was a good smile, too, at the end, man. This is, all right. What is the most dangerous drug?
and believe in it. And if your mother doesn't like it, too bad.
What drug is the most addictive, the most dangerous, in your view? Not maybe specific.
I don't know. I honestly, I would say to an extent, there's probably some kind of tribal bias.
Well, I think when you're going back to high school yearbooks looking for outrage from 55-year-old people,
You've lost the plot.
you've lost
Isn't
the
that,
plot.
isn't that crazy?
It's fucking insane.
Well, what's crazier is when Kathy Griffin tweets out that the three-pointer hand sign at a Covington basketball game was a Nazi hand gesture. Like the three-pointer, you know what the three-pointer sign is?
This thing?
Yup.
Yeah, okay.
See, I'm not going to do it because the photos
It's
will go
just
flying.
okay.
People send me death threats.
I put a series of them on my Instagram.
Wow.
When I found out
That's
about that,
Yo.
I put Bill Cosby doing it. Someone
Yep.
found one of me from News Radio.
Isn't it? Aren't they using it though for that symbol? I know that it's a universal symbol that means a lot of things,
Yes, I
but
think
aren't
you're
they
right.
using it
Yes.
as that symbol?
Yes.
They're not using it to mean white power. No, they're not.
What are they?
100%.
Sure?
It's not.
Okay,
Not
what
that,
were,
no.
what were those cops using it for?
That's the what is it called? It's called the OK game or the Don't Look game, where you put the symbol under your waist, and if someone looks at it, you get to punch them.
What?
There's a game kids play
No.
Where-
Those SWAT cops?
that had it on their legs.
No, they were all doing it. There was like 4 of them doing it in a photograph, and they all
Were
got
they holding it
suspended.
up or were they holding it on their legs?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, no, but I don't.
So
let's
well,
Google it.
let's break this down. I can explain this to you.
Okay,
right?
please do.
Donald Trump, when he talks, he makes the OK hand sign. Have you
Well,
noticed this?
he's pointing. He's
Right.
making. I mean, okay, if he does it this way, is that okay?
Oh no,
What
I
if
don't
he does this?
No, I don't care what Trump does
Is he
when
a
he talks.
devil
I mean, if he
worshiper?
flips people off, it's probably
Yeah.
a bad thing. But so what happens is he starts doing the OK sign.
Music.
So a bunch of Trump supporters start doing it too, to be like, hey, I'm like Trump, right?
Right.
A 4chan campaign gets started saying, convince everyone this actually means white power.
Right.
It was fake. The Anti-Defamation League said it was fake.
Yes.
A bunch of journalists said it was real.
That's what I put on my Instagram.
Yeah.
I put all this on my Instagram, including the article where it showed the original thing came
Right.
from 4chan. 4chan's fucking hilarious.
Powerful.
It's hilarious how much shit they start. They
Yep.
started the flat Earth movement. Okay, there's the guys.
Oh, is that? I never heard that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they
So
started to fuck
let's
with
look at this photo and see if
Where'd
I
it
can
go?
give you a. It's
Got a
gone.
little. It
Wow.
popped up.
I
It's a
don't
conspiracy.
know
How do we
anything
get it
about
back? What's going on?
The connection to the TV is just bad. I have no idea.
No.
It's a Hollywood
The button-
conspiracy.
The button I have is making it go there, and it's not going there, so I don't know.
Jesus, Jamie, this grandma.
Jamie, you're going way too fast.
I-
And
I-
also,
I-
they're talking quick. Yo, I'm out. I get it dressed like this. It's, yeah, well, I can. Is Ben Shapiro with Joe? Wow. Am I trying to like really fight the fucking predictions of Jordan Peterson?
Well, is there something wrong with generating money? It's like, well, it depends on what you're going to do with the money. You know, like if you're going to spend it all on hookers and cocaine, then probably that's reprehensible.
What does
Thanks
reprehensible
a lot, Jordan,
mean?
for coming and doing the interview.
Yeah, no problem.
It's funny, I'd planned all these questions, and then we've just had a chat before rolling about
Comprehensible?
your interest in entrepreneurship. And maybe that could be the angle we could use on the podcast, because maybe it's not what you've talked about in a lot of other podcasts.
Oh wow.
So I might just shut the laptop and we might go down there if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
So, how does psychology, temperament, marry up and link with psychology? You're obviously well known for psychology commentary in other areas, but maybe we could focus a bit on that domain.
Well, I mean, there's lots known about what predicts success in different domains across the lifespan, let's say. The first question is, if you're trying to analyze something like business success or productive success, what are the proper domains of category? And so if you're trying to categorize jobs, for example, which turns out to be quite difficult, the simplest conceptual scheme that's practical, that gets you somewhere, is like a 2x2 matrix. There are simple jobs and complex jobs. That's the first thing that's worth knowing. And it's a continuum, really. But a simple job is one where once you're trained, you just repeat what you're doing. So factory line work would be an example of that, or checking out people at a grocery store, or restocking grocery shelves, or jobs like that. The best predictors for success in those jobs is conscientiousness, trait conscientiousness, and conscientious people are orderly and industrious, and we don't exactly know why they are. It seems like it's associated, oddly enough, with such things as disgust sensitivity. So maybe people are conscientious because they get disgusted with themselves if they're not useful, and guilty. They get guilty if they're not engaging in productive enterprise, and maybe that's a marker for a kind of complex social responsibility. But
Which sounds like the complete opposite of most entrepreneurs I know.
well, that's the thing. The entrepreneurs are different. So for simple jobs, IQ, intelligence, predicts how fast
Jordan
you learn the
Peterson,
job, but not how well you do it once you learn it. And what predicts there is conscientiousness. So you basically, if you're hiring,
I think he's got a
you want
book coming out.
conscientious people who are.
Definitely.
That's the most important
Like
thing.
next,
and then the second most important thing is you want people who are relatively low in trait neuroticism, which is a negative emotion dimension, because they're less likely to be absentee and so forth. So in complex job is one where the demands change on a regular basis. And so most managerial and administrative positions are complex jobs because you can't learn the job once and for all. And then the best predictor for complex jobs, the first predictor
the
is IQ,
structure of
and the
jobs.
second predictor is conscientiousness. And IQ is about 3 times more powerful than conscientiousness as a predictor. And then, so that's the first, simple versus complex. And then the second would be, the second category scheme would be something like managerial/administrative versus entrepreneurial. And the entrepreneurial types, actually, they're over with the artists. So the best predictor for entrepreneurial success, first is IQ, but second is trait openness, which is the creativity dimension. So entrepreneurial types tend to be very high in trait openness. And so that sets them with the artists and also with the political liberals, because the best predictor of political liberalism is trait openness.
Right.
So the managers and administrative types, they tend to be conservative, and the entrepreneurial and creative types tend to be liberal. And so if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be a lateral thinker. And so you'll be the sort of person, if you hear an idea, that will trigger off a whole bunch of other ideas. And you'll be motivated primarily by interest in pursuing your ideas. But your downfall is likely to be organizational and administrative ability. So it's often useful for entrepreneurial types to pair themselves with managerial and administrative types.
Yeah. It's like you are describing my soul here.
Yeah, well, there's a tension. There's this weird tension between doing one thing right, which is what you need to do if you've already decided what it is that you're doing, and scanning the landscape for something new to do that would be worthwhile. Those aren't the same enterprises. And so most companies are an uneasy marriage of entrepreneurial and managerial types. As the company gets more and more established, the managerial and administrative types tend to dominate. But then that becomes problematic because it means it's more and more difficult for the company to shift laterally when it has to, which is, again, I think why so many companies eventually fail.
Because they lose the creative head, is that what you mean?
Sure, they lose
You're
the
good listener,
flexibility.
man, yeah.
And it's funny
Well, you're
because
demonstrating
they're trying to maximize their ability to implement, but it's very difficult to do that without also simultaneously bearing the cost of narrowing. Right? So the thing is if you know what you're doing, you want to hire a conservative. If you don't know what you're doing, you want to hire a liberal.
Right.
Right. So that's a way of thinking about it temperamentally. It's also a way of parsing out the political landscape to understand, at least in part, why you need conservatives and liberals.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, I find a business is like a family. And in the past, in my company, I've had all under 25-year-old male entrepreneurs. Why did we hire them? Because that's what we were like.
Right.
And people, I've found entrepreneurs tend to hire versions of themselves at first, instead of being more self-aware to go, actually, I'm chaotic, disruptive. What I need is order and, like you said, good administrative skills, conscientiousness. So you go through that chaos of hiring people too much like you and having like too much male energy or too much creative energy. Then you maybe react and hire a lot of administration and conscientiousness, and then you maybe lose the soul in your company. And then the creative's trying to drag the company forward. Feels like he's getting held back by everybody.
Well, and it is. It is. But the funny
it's needed to hold him back, but they've got to let him go as well, or her, haven't they?
Well, that's the problem. The fundamental problem is most new ideas are stupid, dangerous, and counterproductive.
And they're the ones that change the world.
well, they are sometimes. They are sometimes, but there's a subset of new ideas that, even though new ideas are dangerous and disruptive and often counterproductive and generally don't result in a productive company, some of them are absolutely necessary, and they're the thing you need to do next. And so, and that's a very difficult problem to solve, because it's the fundamental problem of innovation. It's like most innovations aren't justified or warranted, but some of them are absolutely crucial. So how do you distinguish between them? And the answer is, well, we don't know. The part of the way that you do that in a dynamic economy is you let and encourage a whole host of entrepreneurs to produce their ideas, and you let almost all of them fail, which is kind of painful for the entrepreneurs.
But limited company and all those kind of structures are set up to make that more safe, aren't they?
Right. Yeah. Well, those are. This is something that's massively underappreciated. I would say, on the liberal left end of the political spectrum, is people just don't understand how absolutely revolutionary the idea of a limited company is. Because what a limited company allows is
Travis Scott shoes.
A limited company allows your idea to die instead of you. And that's a big deal.
Otherwise, no one would take the risk, would they, of creating anything?
Well, that's right. No one could bear the risk, because if you failed, it would wipe you out permanently. It's like, well, who the hell's going to take that risk? And so the fact...
This is amazing.
Well, is there something wrong with generating money? It's like, well, it depends on what you're...
Let's get it.
Grammarly helps make your writing clear and concise, no matter where you are. Compose a...
The Joe Rogan Experience.
I don't even think pain pills are good to take.
I've dabbled, but I know how addictive it is.
Jordan Peterson just checked himself into rehab.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa! For what?
He got on an anti-anxiety Klonopin, anti-anxiety medication, because his wife is
that's heavy
dealing
stuff.
with. His wife's dealing with heavy cancer, like liver cancer. And she's been going through operations, and apparently she's doing well now. And he's trying to get off of this stuff. And when he tried to get off of it, he had such a horrible withdrawal that this is according to his daughter. It's on the news, yeah. He had to check himself in. So it's an anti-anxiety medication, apparently. That's how it's used. It's one of the ways it's used.
But it's a strong one.
Klonopin, it sounds like a drug that people take.
My friends took that in high school. That's no Xanax.
Sounds like you can replace it with CBD.
It was just like it shut you down. It was, it was just...
Is that one of the ones that
you
they
drink on it,
use
you're ruined.
To take people off of heroin?
That's methadone, I think.
But isn't there another one? Isn't Klonopin one of those ones that they use as therapeutic?
I just know people take it recreationally and go in K-holes.
They do?
Yeah.
K-holes.
Yeah.
Klonopin puts you in a K-hole too?
Or that's ketamine, I'm sorry. Ketamine, but I've seen people take it too. It'll fuck you up.
It just fucks you up.
Yeah, like 2 beers and one of my friends tried to jump out of a window on it. Like, it is bad news.
I think he was just really devastated that his wife was essentially dying right in front of his eyes. And so he probably couldn't handle it, so he got on some medication.
Wow, he's one of those guys. You're like, he's tough as a bull. He'll be fine. But then everybody's healing.
I've had a lot of experiences.
Also, I think he's wise enough to understand his physical limitations, and I've never experienced real withdrawal. I mean, I've experienced like caffeine withdrawal, but never like a real like an opiate withdrawal. Apparently, it's fucking horrible.
Yeah,
it might actually be a smart thing to check yourself into rehab with people that know how to deal with it and help you through it.
Hectic things.
It's not actually. It's the same thing as Klonopin. It's called clonazepam. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's like a street name.
Yes.
But the doctor prescribed it. Right? Lorazepam. Like, the doctor gave him the crack. It's okay.
Well, those pills are bad news.
It's pharmacy crack.
Yeah. That's what fentanyl is, right?
Advil.
Fentanyl's out of control.
Panic disorder and anxiety and seizures. It can cause paranoid or suicidal ideation and impair memory, judgment, and coordination. This makes sense for a lot of people I know. Combining with other substances, particularly alcohol, can slow breathing and possibly lead to death. Jesus.
There you go.
Doctor needed.
Dr. Joe.
Prescription.
Hit the gyms.
Hook it up. Dude, I can't. I just can't. I need some Klonopin.
But you never took a Percocet and just laid in a pool?
No.
I took baby.
I took either a Percocet or a Vicodin once at one of my knee surgeries.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is terrible.
Really?
Oh my God, I hated it.
Whoa, that's good. That's a blessing. You don't want to like it.
It made me really stupid.
Yeah.
Like my brain was so numb, I was like, I'd rather be in pain.
Wow.
Pills?
Anti-convulsion or anti-epileptic drug as well, huh?
That means it's strong.
So it must do a bunch of different shit.
Yeah.
Also used to treat panic attacks. So he must have been having panic attacks. Yeah, I mean, if it's your best time of your life, you were an embattled professor fighting against social justice warriors and some sort of crazy law that was going to enforce 198,000 gender pronouns, and he was like, hey, this is crazy. Like, let's stop.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then he becomes a national celebrity, and people fight him, and they're angry with him, but also people are realizing the extent of the chaos that's going on in these universities, where these they, them, zim, zer, they demand these pronouns, these nonsensical, made-up pronouns. And he was like, you can't enforce speech. You can't enforce people. He's like, do you understand what this is and where this goes?
Yeah.
It leads to tyranny.
Right.
And everybody thought he was being, like, really exaggerating and over the top. Then as time's gone on, you realize, like, oh, no, he just saw all this. He saw all this coming. He was right. Like, people are radicalizing. And and it's about, a lot of it is about compliance. They want people to comply. I want you to comply with my new pronouns.
I want you to comply to what you have in stock at the store. Okay. Wow, the thumbnail. Wow, no way. Why?
I've always wanted to work in sound, but I wasn't sure how to make it happen. I could have gone to a 4-year school, but at Crest, I was able to skip the electives and master the essentials in under.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
She definitely wants some attention.
Yeah.
Teflon Don, she can't do nothing to Teflon Don.
It's crazy how he's been able to shake everything off.
True religion.
Everything. If you stand 10 toes down, he can't really do nothing to you. That's why I keep saying, like, don't worry about these tech companies. Stand 10 toes down.
Stand 10 toes down?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Stand on your, stand on your foot, man. Like, stand your ground. It don't waver just because somebody says something. I get criticized a lot online, and my response is, I said what I said.
My man,
if you read the left,
10 toes down.
And the right
That's a common phrase.
Pro Trump, and now you're saying something that's different. It's like, and
Well, you got the most shit, I think, for that Starbucks video. The Starbucks video was hilarious. When you walked into Starbucks and you said, here you all, you guys are racist. I'm here to get my free Starbucks.
Yeah.
And that lady was like, okay.
Amanda. Shout out to Amanda.
Shout out to Amanda. She's like, yeah, I heard that. Hold on, I'll get you a coffee. It's like, I didn't know you could just give away coffee if you work at Starbucks, but I guess she just did.
I manifested that.
Where was that?
That was New Jersey, Woodbury Commons Mall, I think.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But, like, I manifested that, and you can go look at that. The tweet 2 weeks before said, if you want to be on mainstream media, pretend to be liberal. Then I also said, I said to my followers, I said, can y'all get me on Fox News? The next week, I pulled this stunt and then got on Fox News.
Now, when they had you on Fox News, what was the premise? What were they going to talk? What did they say?
They just wanted a story. They just wanted,
right. They just wanted some.
They just wanted some shit to.
And they also probably wanted a little bit of potential outrage. Like, look at this guy asking for coffee reparations.
Yeah, you got a black guy who's asking for reparations. They kind of like that, especially when it's spoofing the left. So they kind of wanted to weaponize me.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of that.
I thought it was funny.
I thought it was.
It's dark.
You were very friendly about it. It wasn't like you were being angry or anything. Did you have your son with you or someone too?
Yeah, my boys, the whole family was with me.
That's funny, man.
Yeah. My son didn't. He was like, I told him
you tuned in.
And get a free coffee. Like,
I perked up.
It's like, your dad's really about to pull this off.
Liam Neeson. Yeah.
Honestly, I think that is another consequence of live. I mean, I'm not arguing that you shouldn't be live because it has a massive advantage for you as well, but there's just a different feeling.
Yes.
Like, if I knew that this was being taped and I could rethink the thing we're about to say about Liam Neeson or whatever it is, it's different. And so, but...
Well, the Liam Neeson story is a perfect example.
Let's go there. Okay.
Let's go there. A perfect example.
For who, Joe? For you?
Where, if you were Liam's friend, you would go, don't tell that one. Don't tell that one. He's like, but I want to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, don't.
This is Liam Neeson.
Me, I'm not going to judge you. If you tell me that someone got raped and you went out with a baseball bat for a week looking for a black man to beat up... To kill. I'd be like, oh, Jesus Christ, man. What the fuck was going through your head at that point in time? Like, that's terrible. Like, I feel awful about it. I can't believe that was me. But it didn't happen. Nothing happened. And
Liam.
now, people are calling him a racist, and they don't want him in movies. And
well, I mean, this is fascinating to me because, again, this is a much larger problem with massive implications. We need to think through the whole process of redemption for people in our society, right? Like we have to understand what are the criteria for successful apologies and for forgiveness, right? Because especially, I mean, we're in a world where people are having their reputations destroyed and their careers threatened for tweets they sent as teenagers, right? And more. This is to Dorsey's point. Things are not disappearing online anymore, and at a certain point, there's just going to be a 360 kind of panopticon view of everyone's life. There are people who have grown up on social media, and everything is out there. And the irony here for me is that
everything
you have, progressives,
out
people on the far left who receive a disclosure like, Liam Neeson. Let's take his, and they just want to see him burned alive, right? Let's just do the Wicker Man on this guy because this is. So
no, I know absolutely nothing
and yet,
about him.
Alongside that,
literally
the same people on the left
sounding that
are people who have as a genuine ethical norm the rehabilitation of murderers. Right? Like you could be somebody who spent 20 years in prison for a crime you admit you committed, and there's this norm around redemption and. So there's no way to square those two things.
Well, they're constantly holding these two contradictions, right? I mean, here's another one: women's rights and support of the hijab. I mean, what's going on there? How do you do that? Don't be Islamophobic, but also support women's rights and gay rights.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Eric Weinstein, our mutual friend, calls these the Hilbert problems for social justice warriors. I mean, David Hilbert was a very famous mathematician who, at the turn of the 19th century, posed a set of problems in mathematics that were just the on his list of the most desirable questions, like the hardest questions and the most consequential questions to answer. And so, Eric, being a mathematician, has flipped that around ironically and said, these are the questions that social justice warriors have to answer, and there are these impossible oppositions of this sort. But so the Liam Neeson thing, and forgive me if there's some detail that has come out that I'm not aware of, but my understanding of it is he had a friend who was raped, and then he reported this state of mind, this murderous state of mind he was in, where he was walking around with, I think he calls it a cod.
Cold ass hands.
Word for it's like a small metal club, right? It's like a blackjack, or like another term for it, I think. And looking for a black guy to kill, just hoping someone's going to come out of the woodwork and threaten him so that he could, kill this guy in this act of instrumental violence because his friend had been raped by a black guy, right? So it's like any black guy will do. Now that's sort of like the extra horrific wrinkle to the story, right?
The R word.
Now,
rated R.
And he's confessing this as a kind of a symptom of transient mental illness, at least as far as I know. It's like he's horrified by the fact that he was in this state of mind, right? Can you imagine? Like Liam Neeson, an actor, I have everything to lose. And although I don't remember at what point in his life he said this happened, can you imagine that I was in this state of mind, right? And this is, as you say, an all too honest disclosure, but it is damn interesting, right?
Liam.
And it is the kind of thing that we should be able to talk about.
Not Liam Jonas.
And the fact that this is becoming synonymous with racism seems just wrong, given how he described her, at least how I've heard this, because he's saying, listen, if this had been an Armenian guy or an Italian or a Japanese guy, I'd be looking for one of them, right? I mean, what this was, at least on his telling, is the virus of instrumental violence. I mean, the virus of, this is how every blood feud ever in human history gets started. It's like someone from your tribe killed my brother, and now what I want to do is kill anyone from your tribe, right? It doesn't matter who, right? And that's, clearly
Tribes.
As toxic as it gets, ethically, but that's not racism, right? That is we have a word for it. It's instrumental violence. But obviously he's getting totally pilloried over this. But we just need to figure out how to talk about how people can redeem themselves once something this unsavory is revealed about their past, whether they reveal it or whether it's just found out about them.
Yeah, I mean, it is racism, though, right? Because he's specifically looking for a black guy. I mean, I understand that it's a part of the other tribe.
No, but it doesn't suggest
that he has a predisposed...
That he feels one way or another about black people. It's like if you told me... he could have said, again, it could have been an Irish guy, right? Or it could have been, I guess he's Irish. Is he Scottish or Irish? It could have been an English guy, right? It could have been like any type, right? It's like the salience of the tribe is what he was reacting to, at least in his description. I don't know why you wouldn't take him at his word, given that he didn't have to say any of this in the first place, right? I mean, this is an amazingly honest and unnecessary disclosure. But it's, and I don't think people would think of it as racism if the story simply was, she got raped by a cop, and I was just hoping to go kill a cop, right? Right. The same story, right? So yeah, I mean, but we're
getting asked.
Trigger happy in our outrage with respect to anything like that.
Why do you think that is? Like, what is going on? Because outrage seems to be more in season than it's ever been in my lifetime. I don't ever remember outrage being so
smart.
Just such a it's recreational. Yeah. There's
Well, I mean, it's back to Jack. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot. It has a lot to do with social media and Twitter in particular.
yeah.
Caught snoozing. Liam Neeson. That's epic. That's amazing, dude. Just Liam Neeson. He's just that guy. He said it. Recreational. Meanwhile, we wouldn't know where to go with this. Elon. No, Joe. Dave Chappelle. Like, wow. Is Joe out here? Or
I was hit by a semi-truck.
Jennifer's whole life was wrecked after this crash.
I was in pain. I couldn't work. No ink.
Coney 2020, did they find him? Yeah. Beautiful. That struck though. What happened to Grizzly Man? Yeah. The Grizz Winter Green.
Need a professional website? I created one for our startup using Wix. Let me show you how I did it. First,
will not die at their claws and paws. I will fight. I will be strong. I'll be one of them.
Timothy Grizzlyman Treadwell
Yeah,
spent
yeah.
13 summers camping among bears at Alaska's Katmai National Park.
Katmai.
He treated them more like friendly companions than wild animals, and he integrated himself into the bear population at Katmai using unorthodox and dangerous methods. Which raises the question, how did he end up in the stomach of a creature he considered to be his best friend?
I will be
Oh no.
the master. Still a kind warrior.
Today, we're going to take a look at everything that had to go wrong for Grizzlyman Timothy Treadwell to meet his fate.
Timmy!
Be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel and let us know in the comments below what other
Different cut
tragic
Tim where he
stories
got
you
eaten.
would like to hear about. Okay, let's tell the tale of a man who tried to befriend an apex predator. The brown bears of Alaska usually start prepping for winter in September. Knowing that's when the bears' appetites are on the rise, that's also when most of the bear watchers leave Katmai National Park.
Katmai.
Indeed, on September 26th, Treadwell and his girlfriend, Amy Huguenard, packed up their camp in Kaflia Bay and headed to the airport.
Khalifa
Once there,
Bay.
though, the couple had a change of heart. Treadwell was upset that he hadn't seen his favorite bear, a female he had named Downy. He also noted that the weather forecast was calling for rain. That meant more fish would be moving through the bay's waterways, attracting more bears. Treadwell was also put off by the cost of plane tickets back to his home state of California. After a verbal altercation with an airline employee, he decided to return to the park. The couple knew what they were up against. September was a dangerous month in the park due to all the hungry, feeding bears. In a letter dated September 2nd, Treadwell told friends, "I'm going to make it, unless one of the unfriendly bears gets me."
He's gonna get it.
Kaflia Bay along the Alaskan Gulf Coast was one of Treadwell's favorite spots for bear watching, and he spent time there every summer. In his 1997 book,
Whoa.
Among Grizzlies, he labeled this part of Katmai National Park the Grizzly Maze, because in order to access it, campers had to navigate the web of intersecting grizzly trails in the thick brush surrounding the bay. Treadwell and Huguenard ventured back to the park on September 29th. In order to remain undetected by the Park Service, who recently imposed a new rule that primitive campsites had to be moved every 5 days, the couple traveled deep into the maze. Despite the fact that Treadwell had witnessed some alarming bear behavior while in the maze the previous August, he still set up camp in the most isolated part of it. Treadwell wrote on August
Grizzly's got
21st,
claws.
"Much danger for me. I felt a great deal of paranoia, and rightfully so." He also mentioned that a nearby creek was loaded with bears and trouble.
The bears, you don't wanna run
Treadwell
downhill.
also made the risky decision to establish his camp along one of the major bear trails. He was intent on instigating as many bear encounters as possible, and the location would make that easy for him.
Yo, there's
According
this
to biologist Larry Van Dale, Treadwell chose the spot he did to ensure that
Pros
bears
do
wishing
this.
to traverse
Pros
the
really
area
track
would have had
bears.
to either wade into the nearby lake or walk right next to the tent. In Van Dale's estimation, a person could not have designed a more dangerous location to set up a camp. And it wasn't a choice made out of ignorance. Videos found in Treadwell's tent indicate he understood exactly what he was doing. Yet he was convinced the bears
Hey, he
wouldn't
goes
harm
in the
him
summers.
because he thought they were his friends.
This is amazing. He is going there and
Convinced he had nothing to fear, Treadwell ditched his bear spray and opted not to surround his camp with an electric fence. While there is no evidence pepper spray causes any long-term damage to bears, and other experts
oh
put
hell yeah,
fences
mace.
around their camps,
Get the mace.
Treadwell felt these safety devices were unfair to the bears. He decided to go without. Treadwell's friends had routinely questioned his tactics throughout his career. They were worried he would wind up getting mauled, but he would just say, "If it happens, it happens." To Larry Van Dale, it was the choice to forego any defensive methods or bear deterrence in the camp that sealed Treadwell and Huguenard's fate. In the summer of 2003, Treadwell wrote a letter to a friend in which he observed that a few bears at his camp were more aggressive than usual. Some scientists now believe this behavior was caused by the lack of food that year. Salmon and berries were sparse due to a series of recent droughts. As the hibernation season approached, which lasts from November to April, the bears were desperate to fatten up. They were fighting each other for food and scavenging with less care and less hesitation than normal. Treadwell knew these bears and their habits well, but he didn't think twice about staying put. In his mind, his decision to remain in Alaska past the summer season was paying off. Thanks to steady rainfall, salmon populations soared that early October, and he was there to witness it. Just 2 days before his body was found, Treadwell wrote of the experience, "We made the best friggin' choice of our lives. Once the rain settled down, boy, it was amazing out here."
Honey's Price Tracker watches prices on millions of products across the web.
Whoa.
With winter on the horizon, Treadwell and Huguenard were increasingly at risk of meeting a hungry bear.
Don't you do that. Don't you do that. Back off.
Most of the bears were retreating further and further inland toward their mountainous dens to ride out the winter. But a few desperate stragglers and scavengers remained around Kaflia Bay.
Oh.
Bill Sims, a hunting guide and pilot who knew Treadwell well, often warned his friend about trying to enmesh himself in bear communities while they prepared for hibernation. "These bears just tolerate us," Sims would say. "They've only got one thing in their mind, and that's to get as much food in their bellies during the summer because they've got a long winter ahead. They're not here to be our friends." But his warnings were ignored. Treadwell was so enamored with the bears, he refused to acknowledge the potential threat they posed to him or others.
I'm in love with my animal friends. I'm in love with my animal friends. In love with my animal friends. I'm very, very troubled. They're so effed over. It so sucks.
October is a cruel month for Alaskan bears for more reasons than just competition for food. During October, hunters are allowed to
double
trap bears
barrel.
outside Katmai National Park in the Kodiak Archipelago. The grizzlies in the park, amazingly, seem to be aware of what's happening to their
Light.
species, courtesy of what's known as their
Yeah,
bear
yeah.
sense. In fact, there appears
Yeah.
to be a measurable correlation
That's
between bear
beautiful.
aggression and hunting season in the area.
This
Sam
animation
Egley,
is
one of the men
sick.
who was part of the team that retrieved Treadwell and Huguenard's remains, suspects Treadwell was too detached from the truth about how bears exist in the wild. Egley would later say, "I think Treadwell thought these bears were big, scary-looking, harmless creatures that he could go up and pet and sing to, and they would bond as children of the universe. I think he lost sight of what was really going on."
Yeah.
If you're wondering how close Treadwell
Right.
got with the bears, he actually named every single one he encountered during his 13 summers in Alaska. He also spent time each
gave
year
them
inserting
names.
himself in their habitats and camping along their trails. By all accounts, he was pushing the boundaries of human-bear interaction. In his videos, Treadwell hoped to show the world that grizzlies were not as sinister as they appeared. He even touched them, even going as far as kissing one on the nose.
Yeah, I bet.
He and Huguenard spent previous summers together in Alaska, and she joined him in his quest to be a human among bears. "You haven't lived until you've bathed in a river with bears," she told a friend.
But
In
if you-
September,
wow,
before they left
that's
and returned to
insane.
their camp,
Swim with the
Treadwell
bears.
reported an interaction with 2 large male grizzlies he had named Demon and Machine. He was excited because he felt like he had earned Demon's trust. According to Treadwell, "I am being let in very close to Demon and his food source, and in a further sign that he trusts me, he has actually turned his back to me." However, according to biologist Vic Barnes, this behavior was nothing short of pure stupid. He believed Treadwell wasn't really documenting bear behavior in any meaningful way. Rather, he was just obsessed with his own personal relationship with them. The concept of the 25th grizzly refers to the kind of bear that tolerates no man or bear, one that will maul without bias. Treadwell was very familiar with this concept, having written about it in his book. The way Treadwell behaved toward the grizzlies Demon and Machine even implied he believed they met the qualifications to be considered 25ths. He told Huguenard to keep her distance, but video evidence shows neither bear was interested in them at the time. Despite this, Treadwell was fixated on becoming their friend. He believed that bears identified the smell of people with dangerous poachers. Mythologizing his role in rewriting the narrative of the grizzly bear, he wondered, how can I communicate to him that I am friend and all the rest are foe? With no defenses and a
go to your
campsite that was
neighbors and
intentionally
you
placed
ask
on a heavily
politely.
used bear trail, Treadwell and Huguenot's camp
let 'em
caught
know
the
you wear
attention of a
orange.
visitor,
Be
the
safe and
1,000-pound
smart.
male grizzly Treadwell referred to as the Machine. The interaction likely occurred the night of Sunday, October 5th, and instead of using caution, Treadwell left Huguenot in the tent and approached the bear he heard roaming around their camp.
Oh,
Treadwell
no.
recorded audio of the incident,
Whoa.
as he did with most of his bear encounters. It begins with him
Grizzly
outside
man.
the tent, where he meets his fate. For Treadwell, leaving his tent to investigate nearby bears was typical, but the incident escalated as the Machine's predatory instinct kicked in. Treadwell and Huguenot's remains were found the next day. "I would love to be his friend, but he's not that type of bear," Treadwell said about the Machine, who was put down after the incident. Human remains were found in the bear's stomach. A few days later, a man with the Alaska Troopers told reporters Treadwell knew that he was playing with fire, which was likely part of the appeal.
I will die for these animals. I will die for these animals. I will die for these animals.
So what do you think? Poor guy, or did Grizzly Man have it coming? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from our weird history.
Grizzly Man is a good name.
Place where creative dreamers go to look.
Beautiful. That was elegant. That was very elegant. It's a video of an animal. Not like the octopus video though, because it's like Royal Marine. Real life Captain Morgan. Yo, let's get into Captain Morgan right here. No, this is technically I could filter it. Yeah. Mule deer. Montana mule deer.
Last time on Meat Eater,
Whoa,
I began
sick
a hunt with
gear.
first timers Joe Rogan and Brian Callen.
Right on. Alright, I'm here. This is insane. This is already starting fire. Quick. Oh.
Okay, that's a no shot. Almost had him.
Brian's determined to be successful, and we're going to see this job through and then cap this experience off.
Oh, the wood in the...
Oh, man. I'm Steven Rinella. To me, hunting isn't only about the pursuit of an animal. It's about who we are and what we're made of. I live to hunt and hunt to live. I am a meat eater. It's late October, and I'm chasing mule deer with comedian and first-time hunter Joe Rogan. We're in the heart of north central
Comedian
Montana's
Joe
Missouri Plains
Rogan.
country, one of my all-time favorite places to hunt. Tonight, Joe bagged his first buck, and he and I are headed back.
Haven't you ever done anything you had to do, even if it was the last thing you wanted to do?
I need some more work. I got you. It's a time for war. My mother's always asking for mad cash. I'm taking
to camp.
Hey,
Brian Callen. How'd you guys do? We got an 8-point buck from 200 yards out. No. Yes. No, really? Are you serious? Yeah.
Joining us is Joe's best friend, actor and comedian Brian Callen, who's been hunting under the mentorship of my buddy Ryan Callahan. We launched on the Missouri River a couple days ago and drifted about 20 miles downstream to some prime hunting areas. After 2 full days of hiking and glassing and a couple of missed opportunities, Joe and I found a dandy buck and he made the kill.
So we put the bullet in, we line it up, and I'm too close to the scope. Damn, I had him. But then I pulled back, and then I saw it clear. I calmed myself down. I had a couple of seconds where I was like, no. And I had to calm myself down. I took a big deep breath, and boom, and he just fell right over.
Oh,
I had one
Joe.
of the crosshairs, and it was so perfect.
Shooting.
And then it just went up, and then we just couldn't find it.
Hey.
25.
Year 1 was better than our 25.
Yeah. Thanks, job. This is real. I'm glad. It's pretty intense, man.
Beautiful night vision. Night vision
Joe got his
cameras.
buck late in the day, so we put it up in a juniper tree for the night with plans to retrieve it in the morning. For dinner, we brought back the liver, one of my favorite camp meals.
So, Joe, do you typically like beef liver? Yeah, I order liver.
Hell no.
Oh, really?
Maybe in like us.
Yeah, I love it. It's one of my favorite things to eat.
Just don't tell me. But
Lay a layer of liver in there.
you know, that's the thing. I'm not just gonna pick it and choose it. Liver.
Alright, Joe, you want to try a piece of liver?
Hell yeah.
Here's a sport.
Give me the beef jerky. This is cool though.
Wow.
Really cool, Joe. Really
That's
cool.
delicious. That is good. You like it? Oh, it's
Amazing.
There's something really satisfying about eating something that you just
Yeah, you guys are just by a fire, long day walking. Let's get it.
That is pretty good liver, man.
That's delicious. Oh my god.
Okay, so tomorrow we're gonna go get our deer, skin it, butcher it, and you boys are gonna go out and get either a buck or a doe.
I'm gonna get whatever I can get a shot on.
Well, this is the thing. If Joe doesn't know what he's doing, you gotta tell him what's up, yo. Joe, wake your ass up.
Hello. If you're thinking about doing this, don't plan on being comfortable.
See, work city slickers. I'm used to hotels. So I keep like sleeping a little, then I wake up and I'm like, oh man, I'm cold, and I just can't get warm. But you know, listen, you think that's gonna stop me? I'm getting a deer today.
Stay in the sleeping bag, man. Sleep in your boxers so your body heat just like is maintained in there. Just clothing will, yeah, genuinely like get that body heat out when you're in a sleeping bag and get cozied up.
Deer right on the other side.
Oh, he tricks Joe. He's like,
Just got glass, you know, the whole area. Don't want to have one spook that we didn't see and blow the whole deal out. We have to get to this little hump right here. Down. Let's get ready to shoot. Are you still cool with taking a doe? Okay, here she comes. You see her moving? Okay, so now just watch her with your naked eye. Where'd she go? Oh, there she is. There you are, sweet. Okay, now get really comfortable. Fingers straight off the trigger. Calm.
oh.
Ben was voted one of America's top personal trainers. He's a profound value.
Well.
There she is. There you are, sweetie. Okay, now get really comfortable. Fingers straight and off the trigger. Calm, 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 calm. Is he gonna do it? Where'd she go?
You punched her straight through the lungs there, buddy.
Did I?
Yep. Good
Dropped.
shot. Excellent shot.
Wow. I didn't see it. I didn't see her fall even. I just saw a blast.
Oh, it's a great doe, too. It's a mature doe.
All right, man. Mission accomplished. I was so worried.
Vitals.
I was gonna get a deer.
Check. That's
Joe
lit.
never let me live it
Super cool. Dang. Whoa. Let's get it.
All across the Earth, the history of life and of the planet itself is written in its rocks.
On the surface of a survivor, we survey.
Fossils, large and small, are embedded in rocks layered on top of each other. And by traversing these layers, now exposed at the surface, paleontologists can take a trip through time.
Wow.
Traveling back about 66 million years, rock layers all over the world preserve a remarkable transition
Earth.
from a world ruled by giants to one reeling from their sudden absence. Rock layers older than 66 million years belong to the Cretaceous period, the third and final age of dinosaurs. Improbably huge fossils are the remains of improbably gigantic creatures
Large
that
teeth.
roamed the land surface and ocean depths, grazing, hunting, living every conceivable lifestyle on this ancient Earth. But the rocks younger than 66 million years tell a very different story. Here, at the beginning of the Paleogene, the fossils are vastly diminished, both in number and in size. They tell of a world devoid of dinosaurs, stripped of its giants entirely. No four-legged animal weighing more than 25 kilos lives in this new world. They are mostly small, among which are our own ancestors. And it is a quiet, empty world in which just 25% of Cretaceous species remain. This is the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary, a line frozen between worlds, an Armageddon marked in stone, unimaginably catastrophic. First posited by father and son team Walter and Luis Alvarez in 1980, the Alvarez hypothesis is a symbol of how brutal life on our planet can be. In 1979, with hammer and chisel, they had extracted and examined a sample of the Cretaceous-Paleogene border in the Italian Apennines, half of the fist-sized rock belonging to the age of the dinosaurs, and the other to a world of small mammals. Through the middle of it, a fine, dark, wavering line was the only remnant of a catastrophic event that had ended the dinosaurs' reign. In that delicate layer, Walter and Lewis discovered inflated concentrations of iridium, a metal that's extremely rare on Earth, but which, they theorized, was delivered by an asteroid. 66 million years ago, an 80-kilometer wide asteroid smashed into the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, obliterating itself in the process and spreading iridium in a fine layer over the entire globe. it triggered a string of catastrophic climatic and tectonic changes that, in a mere 30,000 years, decimated life on Earth. Dinosaurs died, never to return, along with 75% of all species on the planet. The living world was utterly transformed. And yet, this brutal impact and its subsequent horrors were nowhere near the worst mass extinction event the Earth had seen. Nearly 200 million years deeper in time, at the end of the Permian period, Earth's biodiversity plummeted in a geological blink of the eye. This time, there was no external agent of destruction. The Earth itself conspired to call forth its Armageddon. Huge volcanic eruptions spewed lava, dust clouds, and gases, transforming the planet. The changes drove ancient species from many different families to extinction, including trilobites, ammonites, and some of the earliest land-dwelling mammals and reptiles. 96% of all marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrates were lost. Known colloquially as the Great Dying, this has been widely held as the most deadly of Earth's many extinction events. But there is one more candidate for this grisly crown. Billions of years deeper in time. The evidence may not be as clear as the boundary rock Walter Alvarez held in his hand, but much, much closer to the formation of our world, there is record of an event so catastrophic that it almost saw the loss of all life on Earth.
Halley's Comet. That's the fucking globe. Lit up.
In the Archean world, at least 2.5 billion years ago, the microbial ecosystem thrives in blissful ignorance of the coming apocalypse. Life is limited to diverse bacteria clusters around hydrothermal vents peppering the ocean floor, feeding off the various minerals disgorged from these smoking chimneys. But these are crowded microcosms. These microbes can only stray so far from the life-giving chemistry on which their metabolisms rely, and the hydrothermal chimneys can only supply so much. So, new metabolisms emerge. Through mutations of the genetic molecule, the bacteria learn to do new things with the chemicals they're surrounded with. Not only that, but they can exchange their newfound skills with their sisters, in a genetic handshake of which only these simple life forms are capable. Bumping against each other gently in the crowded vent metropolis, two microbes can briefly link their membranes and shuttle tiny packets of genetic material back and forth, constantly trading genes and creating new combinations within their own cells. This was the source of staggering diversity in these gloomy seas, and the mechanism that birthed an entirely new innovation, one that was to ultimately transform the face of the planet. That innovation was of pigments, tiny specks that would appear purple to our eyes, but which are capable of absorbing specific wavelengths of light and capturing the energy. Suddenly, microbial life forms have a brand new source of energy available to them. The light from the sun. Sunlight is inexhaustible and easily accessible, as long as you can survive the waves and tides that haunt the shallows. To the first light-loving microbes in a chemical world, their innovation opened the doors to a brand new kind of existence. These phototrophs could eat the sun. This was the birth of photosynthesis, but it wasn't the photosynthesis we learn about in school. It was a strange, noxious kind of chemistry with exotic ingredients. Purple-colored bacteria fed on the sun's infrared light, beyond the visible spectrum. They used hydrogen and dissolved sulfides to complete their reactions and produced solid yellow sulfur and corrosive sulfuric acid as byproducts. The early photosynthetic world was a toxic, stinking mire. But this wasn't the cause of the catastrophe to come. Even after bacteria learned to eat the sun, innovation continued. Through the microbial gene exchange and much trial and error, iterative improvements were made to the new metabolism. New, green pigments absorb red and blue light, capturing more energy than ever before. And a new, simpler kind of chemistry is developed, one that relies not on noxious sulfur, but on ubiquitous water. In this new and improved form of photosynthesis, the sun's energy is combined with carbon dioxide and water to power a cell's metabolism. This is the successful pathway that has been handed down through billions of years, and upon which green plants and algae rely to this day. But this wildly successful new pathway had a dark side. It created a waste product, more deadly and noxious than any sulfur that came before. A toxic waste product that would bring disaster even to the organisms that made it. And one we are still living with today. Oxygen. Oxygen may not seem so terrible to us. Indeed, we can scarcely imagine a world without it. Every animal on Earth today relies on oxygen for its own metabolism. But in the late Archean and early Proterozoic, 2.5 billion years ago, it was a novelty to which the entire planet was unaccustomed.
Amazon's Jeff Bezos stunned investors recently when he revealed that one emerging technology is the key to Amazon's future success. In fact, Bezos argues that it's hard to overstate the impact of this game-changing technology. The CEO of ARK Investments takes Bezos further. We think it could approach $17 trillion in market cap, which would be 35 Amazons. What in the world could be worth 35 Amazons? The answer is a radical breakthrough that Wired said is the rocket fuel of the AI. And this giant leap forward has Wall Street insiders seeing dollar signs. And if you're an investor, I haven't even told you the best part. Because one remarkable company is absolutely dominating this exploding market. This company, less than 1/6 the size of Amazon, is producing a component so powerful that it is absolutely annihilating the competition. And with everything I'm hearing coming out of Silicon Valley and Wall Street, I don't feel like I'm very far out on a limb with this bold prediction. 5 years from now, you'll probably wish you'd bought this stock. And the good news is that you can find out all about this company and this incredible technology today, because I've laid out the full story on this incredible tech trend in an exclusive report. And you're going to want to see this report before you invest another dollar on any tech company. Inside, you'll discover why some mega-rich investors are rushing to cash in on this tech trend. And you'll find out how one legendary investor is preparing for this incredible opportunity. But if you want to get in on this opportunity, I encourage you to act quickly, because the story of the coming boom is already starting to leak out.
Pause. You got me excited. You got me excited. Yeah. Hey. Let me take my collar off. Let me take the leash off, dude. Just let me take it off. Yeah. Oxygen. Well. Well. Full send. Have to skip it.
In September 1844, the southern shores of Lake Superior were a wilderness of hardy white pines, casting long shadows over a softly undulating landscape of ice-smoothed rock. A small team of prospectors are working their way through this landscape, led by one William Burt. He is a geologist and surveyor sent to the northern peninsula of Michigan to seek out new metal ores. Michigan already has a thriving copper industry, and investors seek to exploit ever more of the state's natural bounty. So, late one September afternoon, as the sun casts a golden glow over the landscape, William Burt squints and peers at his compass. Something isn't right. The sun in his eyes tells him he's facing west, but the compass needle points straight ahead. He turns to the north to look across the glittering waters of the lake, but the needle still points resolutely into the hillside.
Blurry Christmas lights.
At Burt's instruction, the surveyors set up camp here and begin their investigations to discover the cause of the compass's strange behavior. Several days of digging, hacking, and blasting later, the prospectors stand before a clean, unweathered rock surface, the likes of which a small team has never seen. The rocks are vivid red and jet black, strikingly arranged in smoothly alternating layers, some mere millimeters thick, others half as tall as a man. Later testing will reveal that iron makes up more than 30% of these rocks, compared to just 5% on average in the Earth's crust. With little more than a compass needle, William Burt had struck Michigan's black, stony gold. These iron-rich rocks would come to be known as banded iron formations, and they would bring Michigan steaming into the Industrial Revolution. But banded iron formations have more to offer than just their mineral resources. These rocks, now exploited in northern Michigan, were birthed in the Proterozoic oceans 2.4 billion years ago. They are the lucrative product of a world in crisis. With the invention of water-based photosynthesis, oxygen was being produced and emitted into the oceans for the first time in Earth's history. Oxygen is a remarkably reactive element and will instantly combine with almost any other element, creating brand new compounds. In the Proterozoic oceans, the newly created oxygen reacts with the green iron hydroxide suspended through the water column, transforming it into iron oxide. Rust. Spreading out from the shores where the photosynthetic bacteria thrive, the waters turn an apocalyptic blood red. Over time, the iron oxide settles, floating down through miles of water to be deposited on the ocean floor. They become the crimson iron-rich layers in the banded iron formations. But a curious thing is happening in the shallows. While the first innovative microbes may have evolved to use the efficient new form of photosynthesis, they haven't yet evolved a resistance to oxygen. Without protection, the waste product builds up in their cells, reacting aggressively with the delicate chemical machinery that keeps them alive. The microbes have no protection because they've never needed it. Until now. So, these new bacteria are suffocated by their own waste gases, dying in droves just as they reach the peak of their success. When populations grow too large, the flow of oxygen in the ocean exceeds what can be removed by iron, and the entire shallows are oxygenated. The toxic oxygen sweeps like poison gas over the bacterial communities lying prostrate in the sun, killing them where they lie. With the sun-loving microbes slaughtered, oxygen production all but stops and normal service resumes in the ocean depths. Muddy shales and silica-rich cherts accumulate, free of iron oxide, covering the red sediments. But the oxygenic cleansing isn't absolute. Not all photosynthetic bacteria are wiped out. Life finds a way. These microbes find their way back to the dappled coastal waters. Their populations bounce back, and they begin to pour oxygen back into the ocean once again. And so, the cycle repeats. Millions of years of blooming and dying, of oxygen levels rising and falling, of red iron oxides alternating with black anoxic silicates. Gradually, pulse by pulse, the banded iron formations accumulate. They are an elegant, deep-sea record of a bitter battle for survival in the shallows. Banded iron formations like the ones discovered by William Burt in Michigan are found today on almost every continent. They formed across huge swathes of the deep Proterozoic ocean and record pulsing oxygen levels lasting 200 million years. But this is just the beginning of the oxygen catastrophe to come. Geologists examining the rocks of the earliest Proterozoic notice a striking transition around 2.4 billion years ago. The black basalt and its black sands and black muddy riverbeds for the first time turn red. The phenomenon is more widespread than just the deep-sea banded iron formations. This is a transformation that took over the entire globe. Around 2.4 billion years ago, the Earth rusted. But how did this happen? How did the photosynthetic microcosmos break out of its seemingly endless boom and bust cycle? With enough time, the photosynthesizers have chance to innovate, exchange, and evolve. Eventually, they evolved to withstand their own waste gases. Oxygen no longer poisoned them straight away. They could live long enough to grow their numbers, bolster their population, and maintain their tenuous grip on the sunlit shallows. Without periodic devastation, they could soak up the sun and belch out oxygen uninhibited. Before long, the seas ran out of iron to soak up the excess oxygen, bringing about the end of widespread banded iron formations. Oxygen begins to fill the oceans, dissolved in the water, beginning at the shore and spreading inexorably into the darkest depths. Ocean currents bring tons of oxygenated water into the furthest reaches of the Proterozoic oceans. Oxygen's silent, deadly spread is catastrophic for the rest of the biosphere. Those crowded microbial communities clinging to hydrothermal chimneys in the dark never change their ways. They never exchange their genes with sun lovers, and they have no resistance to toxic oxygen. They are decimated. Even those that survive the initial cull are deprived of the chemicals on which they depend. Oxygen reacts with iron, sulfur, and manganese emitted from the vent, oxidizing it and locking it away in deposits now inaccessible to these primitive microbes. As oxygen spreads through the ocean, so microbial city after city fall, gassed, poisoned, starved, and rusted to death. There was no escape. The photosynthesizers had brought about a new world order in which there was only room for those tolerant to their regime. But even this was not the end.
Are you still using Google? Then I have something to show you. Ecosia is a search engine just like Google, so you can search for a hotel or general information you need, but then Ecosia makes sure its profits are used worldwide to plant trees in the landscapes where they're most needed. For example here.
What was it in? Question me if I'm still using Google?
The thin layer of iridium that Walter Alvarez and his father discovered in Italy in 1980 was a record of the asteroid that started the KT extinction. The impact obliterated everything for miles around, sent shockwaves around the globe, started forest fires, and filled the skies with smoke. But for the majority of the biosphere, death came much slower. During a global winter that gripped the planet for years after, or during intense warming that followed, it was the climatic after effects that dealt the final blow. So too with the Great Proterozoic Extinction. In 1868, just over the Canadian border from the then thriving iron mines in northern Michigan, exploring geologists discover another curious rock formation on the shores of Lake Huron. Here they uncover a strange amalgam of pebbles and boulders set in a fine grey cement-like matrix. From tiny gritty grains to boulders weighing several tons, the stones are a colourful assortment of many different rock types. Speckled white and grey granites, striped orange jaspers, and greenstone glinting in the sun. There are no matching source rocks for these exotic pieces for hundreds, even thousands of miles. The largest boulders are too heavy to be moved by wind or water. To the 19th century geologists, their presence here is a mystery. It is as if they have been dropped from the sky. Today, we know many more examples of these mysterious exotic rocks from later periods of Earth's history. They are called erratics, and they are indeed dropped, although not from the sky. Rather, from melting glaciers. Pebbles and boulders are plucked from the bedrock and transported along vast icy highways before being deposited unceremoniously when that ice melts away. Only the unstoppable progress of ice has the power to move so much rock so far from its source. The erratics around Lake Huron are exceptional in both their age and their variety. Dating to at least 2.1 billion years ago, they are the remnants of not just one glacier, but a vast ice field, transporting debris across thousands of miles. The so-called Huronian glaciation, named for these deposits, was an ice age like no other. It was the ice catastrophe that followed the oxygen catastrophe, and the nail in the coffin for much of life on Earth. The seas filled with oxygen and wiped out the deep-sea microbial communities. But the photosynthetic communities continued to thrive, pumping out more and more oxygen until the seas could hold no more. So the waste oxygen began to eke into the atmosphere. Here, it reacted with exposed rocks, but it also reacted with other gases in the air. Most notably, it tore apart molecules of methane, transforming them into carbon dioxide. And while we know carbon dioxide today to be a warming greenhouse gas, on the early Earth, methane was a much more potent insulator. As the skies were stripped of their downy methane blanket, global temperatures dropped. The greedy, surviving photosynthesizers continued to gobble at the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, depleting the planet's insulation even more. The Earth was then plunged into an ice age of unimaginable proportions. The sun shone less brightly than today, and with the planet losing what little heat it once retained, the lakes, rivers, and oceans began to freeze. Ice shelves edged towards the equator, spreading like freezing corruption from the shallows over the deep oceans. Before long, the Earth was a snowball planet, head to toe in a cloak of featureless ice.
That's actually a cool photo.
And so it remained for 300 million years.
Never have I seen that.
With every continental shelf frozen solid, covered by ice 100
Beautiful.
meters thick, even the voracious photosynthesizers met their match.
Nah, I watched the
shallow
video.
seafloor froze solid, entombing microbial communities in solid ice. Deeper water that escaped the freeze was black as night below the thick, opaque ice. For microbes that eat the sun, this endless night was an inescapable death sentence. After reaping devastation on the archaic life forms in the deep ocean, they are eventually the very agents of their own destruction. Together, the chemical revolution and the ensuing climate crisis combined to bring about the biggest mass extinction that the Earth has ever seen. It's often overlooked in the face of more recent extinctions where staggering numbers of species are lost, or huge, charismatic animals like the dinosaurs disappear forever. But the great oxygen extinction saw primary productivity, the production of organic compounds by life, plummet. Scientists estimate that 99% of all life on Earth was lost between 2.4 and 2 billion years ago. The bountiful microbial oceans of the Archean were wiped out forever, and the majority of those ocean ecosystems would never recover. Just 1% of life clung on through the toxic ice age in deep ocean refuge, untouched by the poison gas, or in rare, warm coastline oases that somehow escaped the global freeze. All life on Earth today is descended from those lucky few who made it, against the odds. Oxygenic photosynthesis, a chemical innovation made by tiny bacteria nearly 2.5 billion years ago, is the fundamental root of most of our modern ecosystems. And yet, its invention almost brought about the destruction of all life on Earth. You've been watching the entire history of the Earth. Like and subscribe and leave a comment to tell us what you think. And we'll see you.
That was awesome. Somalia. Skunk pig. Where did Earth's water come from? Good question. No such thing as a bad question. Kmart. Yeah. Legal myths. I mean, yeah, we're really at it. That was a cool. No way.
Mike Tyson took 4 grams of mushrooms and is playing with a pigeon on our podcast. Why did the award go to anybody else? Mike, do you actually know this guy, or did you just pick him up on the
This is
way
my
over?
first time to Jake Paul's YouTube
Mike
channel.
also? What's up, bro?
Oh wait, no way.
so many mics
This
in the
is
house
the
today.
setup.
Roll?
I feel like I've seen this.
Yeah, we can do it. All right,
He's
fantastic.
with. Oh, and
gentlemen, welcome
the
back
other
to
guy's
Pulse.
older, I
The
think.
number one podcast in the world. Number one podcast in the world. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button.
Yeah.
Welcome,
Floss
guys.
for
Our
Chris
guest sitting on
Payne.
set today.
Jake
He's an
fucking
absolute
Paul!
legend. He is the baddest man.
Woo!
I've been called worse.
He was the youngest heavyweight champion of all time at 20 years old, and he's got a lot going on in his next active life. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Iron Mike Tyson.
Thank you. Wow.
What up, Mike? Mike. Yeah, yo.
Thank you for having me.
I gave best podcast to Jay Shetty. Jay Shetty never had Mike Tyson on the podcast. Not even once. Not even one time. Not even one time.
Do you think that's a weed cough, or do you have coronavirus?
It could go either way.
God, I hate being on this side of the table.
Sound like you got corona.
Had it once, so you're-
Smoking. Oh, interesting.
Mike, can we open the
Mike.
first thing he said when he walked in? Can I say, anybody got any mushrooms? That was the first.
Yeah, well, no, I said I have mushrooms.
Okay.
I'm not anybody. I'm not a beggar.
Sorry, I misheard you.
Yeah, I'm not a beggar. Anybody have mushrooms? I'm not a fucking beggar.
I don't have mushrooms.
I saw
right
you
now.
have a mushroom guy. I recognize him.
Don't even
He's
have
the
any mushroom guys.
I did your podcast yesterday.
Yes, you did. You did a wonderful job.
Top boxing. Thank you. I had fun. It's a really comfortable set. Made me realize and get excited for the fact that we're going to change our set. We look like we're sitting in SpongeBob's butthole.
You know, I think you and your brother should do affirmations and say how much you'll love each other.
Just sitting across from each other, telling each other that we love each other.
Yeah!
Okay. Yours is going to be a lot longer. I think we should too. I think it'd be healthy. A healthy exercise.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
What is it about the shrooms, Mike?
Excuse me? Mushrooms really tell you you're nothing.
So, exactly. 100%. You feel more connected to the earth. You feel more.
You know, even the mushrooms in the daytime you take in, the earth start moving. You look at the ground is moving.
Right.
You look at the plants and the trees, they're moving. They're doing something.
It's insane. It's insane.
It's absolutely insane.
It's crazy how it can open up a part of your brain that you never knew existed. When I was on your podcast yesterday, a guy came up to me with a handful of mushrooms. More than I'd ever seen in my life.
That was my guy.
Yeah. He said, "Do you want to do mushrooms?" I was like, "I'm good," because I
This
don't
hit
think I
hard.
could do it in front of with all these cameras watching. Really? Yeah, I think I'd embarrass myself. Or
no, I think what you're doing now is more embarrassing, I would say, than taking some mushrooms in front of people.
No, this is way fucking worse right now.
Which part?
Mushrooms are gonna make you beautiful and feel good and all that stuff. This is gonna send you to prison. I'll get you shot.
Yeah, definitely take the shroom route with Mike.
But no, I was just I had never
High
seen anyone
road.
face a handful of there he is. I had never seen
The
anyone
movie.
face a handful of mushrooms like I saw you do, Mike, and you operated.
I'm an extremist.
I can relate.
Yeah, I'm really extreme.
Yeah, I can relate.
You know, I've calmed down a lot since, my family, I got wife and family, and it's looking really good. So
Well, don't mind me. I'm humbled. Wow. Yo, Paul McCartney. It's game day. Football, America. Lex.
Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN
Had
Plus
to.
now bundled together. The greatest stories and characters, the largest streaming TV library,
Disney
and
Plus.
exclusive sports. Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN.
So I want to jump into the whole placebo effect for a little bit here and basically talk about the implications of that. If I give you a sugar pill and I tell you it's a sugar pill, you won't get any better. But if I tell you sugar pill and I tell you and I tell you, wow, this is an amazing drug, it'll actually.
When Google goes dark, the great Google crash. All right.
This video is brought to you by Morning Brew. Hi, welcome to today's episode of Cold Fusion. This will be the final episode of the year. The world always assumes that Google services will be there. From Gmail and YouTube to online storage, search, and smart homes, we take it for granted. Each hour, YouTube has 30,000 hours of video uploaded, Google has almost 230 million searches, and an enormous amount of emails are sent. In terms of connections, Google controls about a third of the surface internet. But on Monday, the 14th of December 2020, all of Google's services suddenly disappeared. Across the world, users were unable to access emails, kicked out of ongoing Google Meet sessions. One Twitter user even said that he was left sitting in the dark with his toddler as his Google Home system had failed. The crash had become one of the biggest social media trends. It sent waves of panic across businesses in many parts of the world. How could one of the largest companies suddenly go dark on all of its services at once? What happened? Was this a hack? In total, the outage only lasted 1 hour but had already caused a lot of chaos. When it was all over, most people forgot about it and went about their day. But this event stuck with me. When you analyze the situation, some interesting things emerge. Not only are consumers dependent on Google, but many businesses that you may not think are also. Is the world too dependent on Google? And how does Google avoid downtime in the first place? In this episode, let's take a look.
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
The Google outage caused pandemonium across the world.
Some of the biggest companies in the country use Google, and this includes Uber, Airbnb, Pinterest, Netflix, Spotify, Twitter, Instacart. The list goes on. Employees not able to reach not just these services in terms of Gmail, but in some cases get into the system at all different websites and web services, Salesforce, Dropbox, so many others that use Google simply to. It's also hitting questioning and the like. Those appear to be down as well across the globe. There are companies literally in standstill as we speak.
Well, it's a wake-up call. Not like we're dependent on this, right?
Big
I mean, this cannot.
Exactly. No.
This cannot happen.
This is it. This is it.
Gmail, Google Search, YouTube, Google Docs, Google Drive, Nest Home Systems, Google Play, even Stadia, all gone. The Wall Street Journal newsroom was dependent on Google services, so during the outage, some reporters had to resort to using telephones to collaborate in writing stories. Some schools in the US had to close for the day. Wayne Westland Community Schools in Michigan gave its combined 10,000 students the day off after Google crashed. The school relied on Google Meet for classes. Many other educational institutions would have been affected due to the press system that authenticates login credentials. She stated that the problem was due to internal servers and that the issues weren't the result of a cyber attack. This explanation doesn't give us much, but that's just about all that Google wants to say about the issue. As you'll see later in the episode, just maybe this, because even a single physical geography is served by multiple servers across the world. And even on these servers, there's multiple backups that rapidly come online if there's a problem. So as we've seen, so much commerce and people's livelihoods rely on Google. It raises some serious questions. What if next time Google was down not just for an hour, but for days? Billions of dollars in revenue could be lost by companies around the world.
A fighter. And take the time. And
keep their services up and running. Site Reliability Engineering, or SRE. Coined all the way back in 2006, SRE is a digital IT outcomes of a system administrator tools to help automate the process without the involvement of actual people. In fact, Google has written a book about this, which I'll link below. Google states that SRE is its most fundamental feature. Todd Underwood of Google in 2016 told Wired magazine, quote, "Were opposing forces. The devs wanted to ensure that nothing went wrong. If you combine development and operations, you can get a powerful synergy for a reliable system. It makes sense. Google is the world's largest online empire, so the more humans you have running things, the more probability there is for mistakes. So, just have code run everything. But within that, human coders can still make mistakes." Though, another question must be asked, is the Google empire too big? Some say that Google's outage, temporarily crippling the productivity of billions around the world, has just made the biggest antitrust argument anyone could have ever done. Currently, Google is facing off against the US Department of Justice for violating antitrust laws. So according to the US government, the answer to the question of Google being too big is yes.
It's the biggest antitrust case against a tech company in at least a generation here. Nothing is off the table in here, which could include a breakup of Google.
The following information is from today's sponsor, Morning Brew. Google's lawsuit is one of the biggest antitrust cases since Microsoft in 1998. While monopolies aren't technically illegal, shutting out the competition is. The Department of Justice argues that Google illegally ensures that its search engine is the default option preloaded into cell phones, from Apple's iPhone to its own Android phone, and this blocks out competitors. This lawsuit will take more than a year to go to trial, and it's one of many antitrust lawsuits against the company. You can read stories like this, or anything on business, finance, or technology, at Morning Brew. Morning Brew makes the latest news fun and easy. You can get up to date with all the latest breaking news in just 5 minutes, all in one place, without having to trundle through different news sources. It's delivered to your email inbox each weekday and Saturday. Click the link below to subscribe to Morning Brew today. It takes just 15 seconds to sign up, and it's free.
Yeah.
So where were we? All of Google's services going down all across the world for about an hour.
The result was pandemonium across businesses and individuals alike, and then we learned how Google keeps things running with site reliability engineering. So moving on, what about hacking?
Don't overpay for camera gear. Capital One Shopping can save you money. It's a browser extension that automatically compares Amazon to other sellers to see if there's a better price out there. It includes tax and shipping in that price, so you know you're really getting a great deal. Plus, it's totally free. So do yourself and your wallet a favor and try Capital One Shopping.
So to combat the threat of hacking, Google often runs hacking championships. These feature hackers who report
Google
security
is
problems
everything
so
I
that
use,
they can be
though,
fixed
like,
before
really.
bad actors exploit them. Google calls this the Vulnerability Reward Program, and it was first launched in 2010.
Really actually is
According
what I
to
prefer.
Google, in
These
2019,
options. I'm
the
in
top
America.
prize in this category was around $1 million for hacking a Google Pixel phone. Though this next part is the interesting thing. The Google outage occurred just a mere few hours after it was discovered that the US government had been targeted by a foreign cyber attack. The hack was so serious that it led to an emergency National Security Council meeting at the White House. Experts are calling it one of the most sophisticated hacks ever seen. It was done through something called a supply chain hack, a software tool called SolarWinds that was used by government departments was infected with malware during an update. After this, the hackers were able to monitor internal emails and do some general snooping. The infected software update in question was released all the way back in March of 2020 and lay undetected until last week. Thousands of companies and American government departments use some form of SolarWinds software. Some affected by the hack include the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, Department of Defense, the Treasury Department, NASA, the NSA, and more.
America.
All of the top 10 US telecom companies and 425 of the US Fortune 500 companies are all said to be at risk. It's estimated that 18,000 clients had installed the infected update. Ironically, for the topic of this video, SolarWinds software monitors computer networks of businesses and governments for outages.
Government officials admit they were stunned by the sophistication of the hack and that many of America's most deeply held secrets may have been stolen.
They were able to access different levels of credentials. In other words, they got in through the back door, then they were able to get into the front door of all of our homes and all of our buildings and all of our government agencies.
As I was producing this video, there was some more breaking news. A Microsoft security analyst believes that there was a second group that launched a second attack on the same SolarWinds software. It's an evolving story and we have to wait and see what happens here. So this is speculation on my part, but what if this massive Google outage was a response to the SolarWinds attack? Google staff may have been hurriedly shoring up their security, and the scrambling resulted in some downtime across all of their services. For a massive worldwide outage to occur just a few hours after a massive cyber attack on some of America's greatest companies is pretty interesting timing, to put it mildly. So linking back to the main topic of this episode, Google's outage can be seen as a stark reminder of our hyperconnectedness. The company has become a bottleneck for so much of the world's processes. It's become part of a massive system, and if it breaks, that also has massive consequences.
Keep Google
For just one company to become
alive.
an unexpected choke point for global productivity is pretty unnerving. This whole conversation isn't even to mention privacy issues, or the shady origins of Google, or having your digital profile sold for ad revenue. So what can be done? Well, the solution is obvious. There's alternatives to Google for every service they provide. It really comes down to the individual person or business. What it all comes down to is trading in some of that convenience that we've all gotten used to. So what do you guys think? Do you think that the world is too dependent on Google? Were you affected by the Google outage? And if so, what were you thinking at the time? I just wanted to say a big thanks to all of you who responded to my post about me going through some health issues. It's really nice to know that you guys cared. So I'm pretty much back at 100% now, so it's all good. That being said, this is going to be the final Cold Fusion episode of the year. So I'm wishing that you enjoy your holidays, and I'll see you next year. If you want to follow me, you can check me out on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to listen to some newer music that I've made, you can check out my SoundCloud. Links for everything will be below. Anyways, my name is Dagogo, and you've been watching Cold Fusion. Cheers, guys.
He's the go-go.
Cold fusion. It's new thinking.
Sick animation. Classic. Oh shit, that flew right over my head. No wonder Kanye West was doing stuff older. That's really cool. Heck yeah, yo. Check out for this like weird syndrome people have. Just like get on my phone. Go right to the next app. Not the next one. The same one. Alright, so I'm at a point where that song at the end kind of was this would be really cool. David Hoffman. Yeah.
Well, when I got to Vietnam,
Floss for Chris Payne.
I literally expected
Stash
to be welcomed with open arms by the people of Vietnam. I had in my head the black and white newsreels I had seen on the Walter Cronkite 20th Century show of the American troops rolling through villages in France and being showered with wine and flowers and kisses. And as we were driving down, a guy from the battalion I was assigned to picked me up in a Jeep at Da Nang, and we had to drive the 20 miles to where my battalion was located, and I really was disappointed that there weren't people standing along the road waving to me and offering me flowers and things. I really expected to be greeted with open arms as a liberator, and it was as though I was invisible, as though I didn't exist. And that was a little perplexing. Moreover,
when he showed up in Vietnam,
they
wooded,
looked funny.
landed,
And they acted funny. I mean, just riding along
jungles.
this Jeep the first day I got there.
No cameras.
They lived in
No one
straw
got
huts.
photos in Vietnam.
Animals in their backyards, and they weren't like us. They smelled bad. The whole country smelled bad. You could smell it. It hurt the nose. And that was disturbing. And then I was there for on the third day I was there, this guy who had picked me up in the Jeep, a corporal who I was ultimately going to replace, he and I were in the battalion intelligence section. We were sent down to the tractor park, the amphibious tractor park, to meet a bunch of detainees. It was our responsibility to take care of prisoners, and detainees were a classification of civilians. They were not combatants. They could be detained for questioning. That's why they were called detainees. And Jimmy and I went down there to the track park, and 2 tractors came in. They had a whole bunch of Vietnamese up on top. High, flat-topped vehicles, about 8 or 9 feet tall. And as the tracks wheeled into the park, the Marines up on top immediately began hurling these people off. They were bound hand and foot so that they had no way of breaking their fall. And they were old men, women, children, no young men. And I couldn't believe these guys were treating these people this way. And I turned to Jimmy and said, I grabbed him by the arm and said, what are those guys doing? We're supposed to be helping these people. And Jimmy turned to me and he looked at my hands on his arm. I sort of took them off and he said, Earhart, you better keep your mouth shut until you know what's going on around here. And I think it was at that point that I realized things were not quite what I was expecting. It went downhill from there. And again, I can't even begin to explain in the space of time that you have all of the things that went into it. But I began to understand, it became obvious that the enemy was the very people in these villages around us, and we were in a very heavily populated area at that time.
Oh, shit.
They were the enemy, or at least the enemy was out there somewhere, and we couldn't tell one from another. And day after day, our patrols went out, and we ran into snipers and mines, and snipers and mines, and snipers and mines.
IEDs.
I saw 4 armed enemy soldiers the first 8 months I was in Vietnam.
Call of Duty World at War.
Yet our battalion during that same period of time sustained 75 mining and sniping incidents per month, over half of them resulting in casualties. This is for a unit of about 1,000 men. But there was no one to fight back at. And you begin to think, these people are the enemy. They're all the enemy. And then you go through villages and, you get sniped at, and so you call an airstrike in on a village, and the whole village goes up. Or you go through a place and you search it, and you burn houses and blow them up. The common perception, the notion I had when I was in high school was that the Viet Cong terrorized the Vietnamese population, forced them to fight against the Americans on the pain of death. What I began to understand in Vietnam was that they didn't need to do things like that. All they had to do was let a Marine patrol go through a village. And whatever was left of that village, they had all the recruits that they needed. I began to understand why the Vietnamese didn't greet me with open arms, why they in fact hated me. But of course that didn't change the fact that my friends were getting killed and injured every day, and the only place that you could focus your own anger and fear was on those civilians who were there. So it was this self-perpetuating mechanism. The longer that we stayed in Vietnam, the more Viet Cong there were, because we created them, we produced them. None of that distilled itself into the clear kind of expression that I'm presenting now. What I began to understand within days, and which became patently clear within months, was that what was going on here was not what I'd been told. What was going on here was nuts. And I wanted to get out. I knew if I were still alive on March the 5th, 1968, they'd stick me on an airplane in Da Nang. We used to call it the Freedom Bird. And I could fly away and forget the whole thing. Turned out not to be quite so easy to forget it, but that was the notion. And certainly for my last 8-9 months in Vietnam, I ceased to think. I quite literally ceased to think about why I was there or what I was doing. The sole purpose for my being in Vietnam at that point was to stay alive until I could get out. And the reason for that is that, the kinds of questions that began to present themselves were just, the questions themselves were ugly. And
If you were to ask me, Trailer Park Boys. Yo, let's get it.
Holy crap, boys!
Yeah. Bubbles!
It's almost 2021. Fuck you.
Yeah.
2021.
Ah!
Everybody, stay safe tonight and then tune in tomorrow because we got
Really cool. They're doing wild. Oh, they're killing it, having fun. Oh yeah, this one that caught my eye. I had enough Tesla lately. All right, well, this is where the imagination comes in. Not even that, like, right? Gastronomer 8.0. I'm a gastronomer. Yo, ravioli?
Now streaming on
Chef Boyardee.
Oh my lord, this is an emergency. I have the
Pets?
key of my life tonight. Let's fix you up. Sometimes change is good. So, Rated PG, now streaming on Disney Plus.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today, by popular demand, we'll be continuing a theme of molecular gastronomy. And the topic of today's video is transparent ravioli. We will make our delicious
Transparent ravioli.
parsnip puree and serve it with caramelized cherry tomatoes, vegan feta cheese, and some mint. Before we proceed, though, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like it.
Delicious.
And put some comments below. Okay, let's move on. So the first thing that we're going to do is to put our tray in the freezer. Next, parsnip puree.
Whoa, slicing and dicing. Kitchen tools. Nice kitchen.
While the parsnip is getting cooked, let's quickly start caramelization of our beautiful cherry tomatoes.
Cherry tomatoes. The cherry tomato drive. This is cool. So, yeah, videos of cooking. But this is like, you learn, you see. But there's books, recipe books.
So our filling is done, our
You get to
garnish
have
is
a
done.
book.
Now it's time to proceed and make transparent dough. For our transparent dough, we will
Get some
need
dough.
water, vegetable broth for flavor, agar-agar, and xanthan gum.
Way over my head. Shaking and baking.
By the way, make sure that you use blender for this recipe,
The
you won't be able to
blender.
mix those ingredients as well by hand.
So right now,
So
well,
once
I
it's
don't
all
really
mixed,
cook at
transfer
all.
it to a small to medium
But
pot
I'm into the whole color.
and bring it to boil while whisking.
Of the food, the presentation, but yeah,
Now,
something
when
about
you
that.
brought the mixture to boil and activated agar-agar,
Color
now
of
we
the
need
food.
to pass it through the strainer with some cheesecloth to eliminate the bubbles.
Cheese.
Now, it's time to take out our ice-cold tray from the freezer, put it on your workstation, and spread our mixture evenly.
Whoa.
Discard the extras.
Don't want too much. Just a nice layer, no stick.
And let it cool down at room temperature, or you can also put it in the fridge. It will cool down faster.
Whoa, right, no way. Heating and cooling of earth stuff. And ovens. But it's more about the art of it. Like it's you'll find food visually, digitally, having popped up. Very nice. Okay. Yeah.
Okay guys, this is it. Our transparent ravioli are ready, and I'm gonna taste them in a minute. The plating itself looks simple, but I think it's very beautiful. Okay, let me
That plate
taste
is
it out. I'm gonna start with the small one.
available.
They're very fragile. So
Nice. Would I eat it? I'd say that's what, yeah, makes the difference between like food and all right. All right, we're checking out this. So, well,
Hello, freak bitches.
break it down. Yeah.
So you're working with Rick Rubin.
Joe.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Rick's fantastic.
What is that like though for you being like a guy who's kind of like you've kind of controlled everything before, right?
Yeah, totally.
So what is it like for you to have Rubin in the mix and
Yeah, well, Rick's a friend, so for me it was like I was sort of at a low point, and he kind of picked me up when I was down. So it was like I didn't mind sort of trusting him with like the head part of it all.
Mhm.
Kind of like you deal with that part, and I'm just gonna sort of be.
The Joe Rogan
Kyrie.
experience.
But the problem is there's no balance because it's almost all the stuff that they're angry about because that's what they want to text and tweet and Facebook about, and very little of the stuff. Like, what's the ratio of like really cool stories, like that make you feel good, to like another horror in the news? What's the ratio?
90-something to 1.
90-something to 1. There's a new one. There's a cloud of dust that's coming from Africa across the fucking ocean, and it's gonna
that
wipe
right?
us out.
Really? This year is like the devil scripted this entire year. What does it? What does this do?
African dust. I don't know, man. I didn't know dust could fly that far, all the way across the ocean. Isn't that crazy?
Where is it right now? Like now, this is something I gotta.
We're at DEFCON 5 or some shit.
What happens? So
I
the
don't
dust
know.
storm.
I don't know.
No.
I just read it. I was like, oh my god. And they said Yellowstone's ready to blow.
That scares me the most.
The most. We're pretending. We're over here pretending that this is all permanent.
It happens a few times a year.
Does it really?
It's fairly common.
But what does it? What does it do?
Oh, so is this blown out of proportion for the news?
I think just the headline sounds crazy.
It's Yellowstone.
The one I found says it's a silver lining, so it's actually kind of maybe a good thing. It says, it signifies a dry, very dry layer in the atmosphere, and hurricanes don't like dry air, so it might protect against hurricanes.
Oh, well that's good.
Okay.
Oh, see, we jumped the gun.
Oh, that sounds like a great. That was a great story.
How about that? How about hurricanes? How about the fact that every fucking year the sky becomes a monster and eats people? Fucking throws cars through the air and shit. Every year it happens.
And it's getting worse, right? And the fire's getting worse, right?
See, they say that, and it makes sense that it's getting worse. And this is not an excuse for like the carbon emissions.
This makes it sound way worse.
What is it? Oh my god, an enormous cloud of dust from Africa, Sahara appears to be heading for Texas, Louisiana, and Florida. It's like it's a missile.
And then they show a dust storm like taking over a city.
Oh my god, is that really what it was like?
I don't think so. I mean, that's not what the other article I just read.
Show that video though. What does it say? Massive dust storm turns the sky red in Sudanese capital.
Somewhere way far.
Oh my god, man, look at that.
That was in Mission Impossible 4, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, he was on that sky ride.
Oh, definitely not. But like dust storms, yeah. Wind, wildfires.
I'm gonna be breathing dirt for the next hour.
The correlation of
How long does a dust storm last? Do you imagine living there, man? You gotta go to the grocery store and you're literally walking through a dust storm. So you're dressed like one of them dudes from the Lord of the Rings.
Right.
You know, you should get fucking scarves across
Star
your face.
Wars.
Like, no, the guys in Star Wars. What are they called?
I've never seen Lord of the. I
The
fell
ones who live,
asleep
like, in
during
the
Lord of
dirt
the Rings.
Yeah,
the sand people.
Sand people, yeah.
I think that was the name.
There's also the little ones. You remember the little ones?
Yeah, there was a bunch of them.
Those were the. Oh, damn it.
But those sand people.
No, Ewoks were the fluffy ones.
But who are the sand people?
Tusken Raiders.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah.
Tusken Raiders.
I think that's it.
They're called Jawas. Are
they?
Jabba the Hutt.
Sounds right.
I'm gonna go with Jawa.
I believe you.
I think we should do a whole podcast of things we kind of know about. So far, we're
already
killing
doing
it.
it. We're already doing it. I don't think, man. I mean, look, there's no way the weather just stays the same. It doesn't stay the same. It's never stayed the same.
Philosopher Chris. Hey.
Climatologist.
Yeah.
I don't know why it drives me nuts, but I just.
But this is my point of view. Legitimately, we have a bigger concern. One
Joe.
of the bigger concerns is we're not prepared if anything goes sideways.
Do you
That's
remember
what we're
you-
finding from this COVID thing? We're not really prepared if things go sideways.
Yeah.
And we definitely should be protecting against the human impact on the climate change. It's real. We really have fucked up the earth. However, even if we didn't fuck it up, this place is so unstable. Even if it wasn't us, the asteroids, the
So many
hurricanes
ways
that
to
just
die.
exist and have always existed, earthquakes. We just don't live long enough to see enough of these to be scared of them.
Yeah.
Because our lives are so fucking short.
Yeah.
And the life of the earth is so long.
Desert
that
Ops,
all these
America.
tectonic plates, shit. Like when we go to a mountain, like, wow, that's really pretty. Look what happened. It's alive!
Yeah.
That thing's moving right now. There's lava under it.
If you saw like 10,000 years a second, you would just see the whole Earth.
Just boom, moving around. Oceans come in and out, and it's constantly doing that. It's always done that. We definitely should stop fucking up the world that we're living in, the world that we exist in. But even if we didn't, this is so dangerous.
Yeah.
This whole place is covered with predators. We are just super
Wow.
lucky we killed most of them off and boxed ourselves away. And some people forgot. Except for those pigs.
We got to figure out that asteroid. We're not looking at enough of the sky.
No.
I think we're looking at 3%.
Dude, and you get different answers from different folks when you ask them how long it would take before they could deflect something.
Oh, forget. Well,
I think Neil deGrasse Tyson, what did he say, 10 years? Do you remember?
You gotta figure out how you're gonna do it. And
Jesus
track it,
Louises,
build it.
bro.
Yeah.
Jesus
If it's too
Louises.
big, there's nothing you can do. I mean,
If it's too big, there's nothing you can do.
But I don't know. We could get you have 1 week to live. Just could come on the news today. We just saw this asteroid.
Oh, yeah, they said the Mayan calendar is supposed to technically end next week.
Oh, Jesus
That thing
Christ.
always comes up, though, and it's never anything. You know what shocks me is when you have the leader of a cult, and they have doomsday, and they have the date and the time, they all go outside, and they sing, and it doesn't happen, and then that guy convinces them to stay, and he goes, no, it's a different day.
Yes.
And they all just...
There was a guy who was taking out billboards. There was a billboard in Woodland Hills on Ventura Boulevard, and it had this fucking billboard, and he had a bunch of them all over the place. But he had this billboard that showed the very day the Earth was going to end. Like, it was like it had a date on it.
Do you remember it?
Spread through Facebook everywhere.
April or May.
I made a post on Facebook that says
the Mayan calendar predicts
the Mayan calendar cannot end in the world cannot end in 2012 because I have yogurt that will expire after then. Yeah, the expiration date on my yogurt is later than the world will end.
Weird culture. The Mayans had a weird culture. It's real.
I don't know much about it. I know the temple. I mean, didn't they kill virgins?
I don't think they killed. Well, who knows?
This is great. I don't know about this topic.
I don't know if they really know what exact people they killed. They killed a lot of people.
Mayans.
But what's really interesting is how beautiful their structures were. Like these amazing structures.
I thought one of their pyramid, like those big steps.
Yeah.
I thought one of them was for murder for their crops.
They've speculated that there were certain platforms that they would do sacrifices on. The Aztecs did, I think, the most sacrifices in one day, or it was like a couple of days. They killed somewhere around, I want to say more than 80,000 people.
There's stories
sacrificed
I've heard.
When they completed this one of the temples.
How do you kill that many people? Did they bury them or something?
They just killed them one after another.
That takes a long
Yeah, the
time.
victims of human sacrifice by Mexico's ancient Mayans who threw children into water-filled caverns were likely boys and young men, not virgin girls, as previously believed. So, wow, they would human sacrifice by throwing children into water-filled caverns.
I can see how they could help, though.
Kids. Can you imagine that, though? Like, you believe in superstition so much, you want to drown a kid so that the crops come back.
That's a sign people feeling out of control, they don't know the answers to something they can't figure out.
But how crazy are the people in almost all religions, especially the ancient ones? They lean towards these really ridiculous things like that.
Yeah.
Who's sacrifice?
First brings that up. Like, what if we do this?
Yeah.
There has been.
Yeah. So make a sacrifice like Cain and Abel, right?
And if your God wanted that, your God wanted you to kill your children. That's a horrible God that you're...
Or how about your God tells you to kill somebody, and when you're about to, he says, no, stop, I was just testing.
Yeah, that's a fucked up story. I mean, that is... People act like that's a normal story.
Philosopher Chris
God
Payne.
that makes the universe told you to murder somebody, and since you said yes, you did the right thing by saying yes because you have to trust God, even if God tells you something that you can't imagine is real.
Right, even if you know in your gut it's wrong to murder your kid.
You have to murder your kid because
Joe.
God's telling you to. And you were about to, and you're like, okay, good. I was just checking, bro.
I like you now.
I was just
That's
checking,
the
bro.
biggest bully asshole.
Metzger is actually a religious genius.
Yeah.
He knows a lot about religion, and he was
really
explaining to me the story of. He gave me a much better understanding of the story, where I think his name's Elisha. These kids were yelling at him, and they called him Bald Head. He was a bald guy, and so he asked God to sick a she-bear on the kids, and it killed like 40 kids.
The she-bear.
I wish I could remember exactly what Metzger, how he explained it to me. But it was the insult was much worse than just calling him bald head. You just have to put it into perspective with the time. Like the way he was saying it to him was much worse than we would imagine the term would be. We're looking at it in terms of modern language. But I'm like, still, God sicked a bear on these fucking kids. I think Metzger was saying that it might have meant that they actually were trying to kill the man. Yeah, from there, Elisha went to Bethel. As he was walking along the road, some boys came out of the town and jeered at him, "Get out here, Baldy. They said, "Get out of here, Baldy." He turned around and looked at the curse. This I think that's a real weird translation. I don't think that's the best translation. The way I've heard it before is not written exactly that way. Did they have more than one translation?
Yeah, tons of translations.
He turned around, looked at them, and called down a curse on them. In the name of the Lord, the 2 bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of the boys.
I got a bear story.
It seemed, when I heard it before, God, maybe I'm wrong, but it felt like it was in the ancient way of saying it, and that was what Metzger explained to me. See if they find out like another. Yeah. There's another way of putting the words together that Metzger was saying. No, they were going to kill him.
This is a version that has like tons of translations of it.
Holy shit!
So there's lots of versions.
Unless they were trying to kill the guy, maybe we're looking at it wrong, and they were actually trying to kill the guy. And I think that's one of the things that Metzger was trying to say, like they were threatening violence to the guy.
He sent a bear.
I think 2 bears. Doesn't it say 2 bears?
Yeah.
It just says 2 female bears, 2 she bears.
Dude.
I was
Imagine, call a dude a Baldy, and he's 6 bears on you.
I didn't mean to call him bald, but it's nothing he's not heard before. Crystal skulls.
Is this a cult if I ever heard one? Yes, it is.
Whoa.
By killing themselves, they ensured
HBO Max movie.
It's a cult. I mean, it's the cult.
Yeah.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
I want to talk to you about the story of the crystal skulls themselves, because there's this strange sort of folklore attached to them, and then there's a lot of people that believe that it's all horseshit and that these were created by modern people and buried underground.
Yep.
In order to.
Well, my understanding of it is there you go.
Sure,
yeah, indeed. That's just the citrus model, the crystal driver. There were 13 heads, and it was purported that the Navajo, the Anasazi, the Mayans, the Aztec each had one. The most famous one is the Mitchell Hedges skull, which was found in the Yucatan by Anna Mitchell Hedges. She reached into a cave. She was with her grandfather, and it was around 1926, and she reached in, and there was an oilcloth covered item in there, and she pulled it out and opened it up, and there was the 2-piece detachable jaw. Mitchell Hedges skull, beautiful skull. The Hewlett-Packard engineers did a test on it in the 60s. They said it could not have been carved by a lapidary, by tools. It had to have been polished over hundreds of years, over centuries, to get to the shape that it was. So they said it was a polished item. Let's see, there's the Mitchell Hedges skull, the Phyllis Newman skull named Max. She says,
wasn't that later decided by some people that this was not the case?
I'm gonna exactly get to that point, because of course it's important. It doesn't affect my business whether they're fake or not. These were beautiful artifacts, and we've recreated it beautifully. But it's nice to know the true story, and I have kind of a thought on the theory either way. So there's the Phyllis Newman skull named Max. She has to put it in the closet because it talks to her. There's
Wait. Hit the brakes. I'm going to have to hit the brakes a bunch with you. You're an excellent talker, sir.
Oh, well, I was inoculated with a gramophone needle at birth. I could talk a taxi dispatcher into a vow of silence. I could talk an air raid siren to scrap. But
and you're obviously Canadian because you said slag.
Yeah, there you go.
I see date a Canadian gal. She loved that term.
Oh. So that's another tangent, Canadian gals and Canadian guys. So the Philip Newman skull, she got it. Its name is Max. She has to put it in the closet because it talks to her, she said. So there's the Mitchell Hedges. Has it? Yes, she does. Phyllis has that one. Then there's the Mitchell Hedges skull that's in Indiana. The man that took care of Anna at the end of her life eventually had it and got it. It sat in Grafton, Ontario for many years, and I never saw it, but people said when they walked into the room and she covered it with the cloth she kept it in, that there was an immediate feeling of well-being and healing coming over to look at the original Mitchell Hedges skull. There's one in Mexico City. It's one of our minis. It's got a cross stuck right in the top of it, which is, that would shatter a crystal if you did that. How that cross got there, I don't know. There's one at the Smithsonian in Washington, and 2 at the Smithsonian, Washington, D.C., and 1 at the Victoria and Albert Museum. So there's supposed to be 8 that we have and 5 that we're missing. The woman at the Smithsonian who has the 2 there, I think they're a cloudy orange one and a cloudy green one, and they're smaller. She says they're all fakes, that they were carved by a German lapidary in the 1800s, and that he seeded them around the world. Well, wait a minute. I think one was found in Tibet, one was found in Ohio, we're hearing, at the Serpent Mounds.
Why does she think this one gentleman did it?
Because he was an expert lapidary. He had the tools to do it, and she figures, her theory is that they're not artifacts polished by tribal hands and passed down, that they're all fakes. But it's just, wait a minute, he would have had to have had an airship to go and deposit these wherever they might be around the world. You can get the pictures of the skulls up, the Smithsonian crystal heads, and the Smithsonian crystal heads you can get in Victoria Albert Crystal Head.
Do they all have the same similar type of markings?
There's theirs. Yes, they do. They all have the same. Now, you see, some of them are more are clearer. See, there's one at the British Museum. And there's some that are clearer and are more beautiful, and there's some that are rougher, like that one there, and the green and the orange one. But she says all fakes. But if they're all fakes, how did they get to these different places around the world, and how were they found?
The crystal
Well, here's the thing. But why fake? The word fake is very strange because it's like they are certainly real carved crystal skulls.
But were they from tribal ancestry?
Right.
That's the question.
Who made them? Is the question.
Who made them?
Modern Western
and
people.
How? Were they polished or were they carved? That's the thing. Aren't they beautiful, oh God?
What do the indigenous people say? They say they found them?
The Navajo say they came from the Star Children, that they were brought down and deposited and given to them as crystal ball devices, scrying devices too.
What's that one down there, Jamie? Keep scrolling where you were.
The green is beautiful.
The one on the left right there that looks almost like a real skull. Oh, it's a real skull.
Yeah, no, the green is beautiful. So...
relentless. Wow, yeah, I mean, what the fuck did I think?
So I guess, I don't know, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a professional historian, I guess I have to trust the lady at the Smithsonian, but then I question, they were found at different times in history around the world. How do you go and seed? How do you deposit them there?
Why does she believe that? Is she given a coherent reason why she thinks that they're all hoaxes?
I guess she's done her analysis, whatever they've done, to their skulls. But again, the Hewlett-Packard engineers took that Mitchell Hedges skull and they said this have not have been polished. It would have been cracked or destroyed. It could not have been built by tools. It would have been cracked or destroyed. It had to have been polished. Yeah.
But what about some sort of a very fast-moving drill with a diamond bit on it that can slowly grind down?
Well, there'd be marks that would be visible under the scanner.
Couldn't you polish those marks down?
I think that the intensity of the Hewlett-Packard scrutiny revealed that there were none of those marks, and that's why they were able to make their claim.
Here's the problem with this: is like you want them to be real, right? Don't you?
Oh yeah, I love the legend.
I do too. I do too. But I don't trust me.
No, neither do I. So that's why I say openly.
When you're saying all these things, I want to believe you. I want them to be from the sky people.
Mm-hmm. I do too, but again, you've got a professional in Washington at our National Museum there who says no, they're not.
Yeah, but what does she know?
Well, we could.
She might be
her name. We should get her on the phone.
She might be a party pooper.
I think that she's probably as in love with the skulls, even though they are, not polished in her mind. I bet she loves them as much as we do.
But the thing is, if you are a professional intellectual or someone who's a curator of fine artwork and ancient relics, you kind of have to be one of those people that dismisses anything preposterous. Because if not...
That's right, like Neil Tyson. Don't you love him?
Yes, I love him to death.
I love Neil. But there's no way he can sit down and say, Neil, Barney and Betty Hill were abducted by a flying saucer in 1957. He's not going to accept that. Because he can't accept that. Because everything in his training, everything in his knowledge, everything that he knows about physics and science and propulsion in the universe and how to get from place to place defies defies the legend, or I would say defies the theory that there are extraterrestrial advanced ships out there. He can't accept. It's just, it would be unprofessional for him to say, okay, there's even a possibility that there were abductions. But
the Betty and Barney Hill story is very interesting, but there's no real evidence other than their testimony. Is that correct?
Well, there was a stain on Betty's dress. There's her excellent recall. He was unconscious.
What was the stain on her dress that's so interesting?
It was a fluid that they used in the testing. Some kind of a fluid that they did at one. They drew ova from her and they drew sperm. From him. Now, so there's a book out called Contact by Stanton Friedman.
You guys are fucking insane.
I'd love to know where the car is. Where the Chevy they were driving.
Oh, it disappeared?
I don't know. I'd have to ask Kathleen where it is. Did they end up in a junkyard? Because there were marks in the back of the car as well. There were trace evidence in the back of the car. You know Ted Phillips is. He goes around the world collecting trace evidence and radioactive signatures from sightings and
no, Ford all day. If you have a Chevy, definitely not. No.
It was Betty's. It's their credibility.
All over the world.
Why do they want to bring this into their lives? And she was conscious, semi-conscious through much of it, and Barney was not.
Ford all day.
If you hear the tapes of Ben Simon's interviews with them under hypnosis, the screaming, and he was just so frightened.
Yeah.
And the Zeta Reticuli map, when the being Betty looked at the map and the being showed her a map as she was on her way out the door, and she said, "May I take this?" And the being was going to give it to her, but then another one zipped up and said, "No. You can't have this."
Zeta Reticuli is exactly the same place where Bob Lazar says they found those with the spaceships that they have at Area or S4.
Well, the Little Greys, Zeta Reticuli, Barney and Betty's abduction. You had Marjorie Fish, an amateur astronomer. She took the memory of Betty's. Betty drew up the star map, and she did a three-dimensional scale model of that part of the universe, and was able to identify Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2, and accepted by astronomers. So that map that Betty saw aboard that ship had not been seen on Earth before.
And Betty has no history of astronomy, no studying it?
No, none of it at all. And interesting things like when they got back to the house, the house was open and the keys to the house were on the table with leaves so that they might have dropped them at the site and the beings returned them. Now, you know who Bud Hopkins was?
Yes.
He said that since he studied the Linda Cortile case, where the woman was floated out of her apartment building over the East River in Orange Ord, picked her up,
Tell
plunged
people
into
who
the
he
river.
was. He was the guy.
Bud was an artist. He was a graphic artist. He was a designer, a painter, and a lovely man. And he was one of the first people to start to deal with the trauma of abductees. He got a reputation for being able to interview them, hypnotize them, interview them, and get their stories and empathize and sympathize with them. And he said that in some cases that he studied, the beings would grab a man from somewhere in America and grab a woman and out of their cars, out of their clothes, put them up, test them, draw ova, draw sperm, fluids, whatever they were doing. And then the woman would wake up in the man's shoes or a different car, or almost as if the beings were finished with them. I don't care where they go now. Yeah, put them back, that kind of thing. He said that was the oddest phenomena.
Like releasing a trout.
Yeah, that's right.
If
I think that's
catch a trout, you catch a big rainbow trout and you're fly fishing, and you got a barbless hook.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, if you go to Montana, go to the Gallatin River, shout out to the Gallatin.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous place.
Mm-hmm.
People catch and release because they appreciate that the trout are there. They'd rather go buy halibut from a store and not eat the fish because they want the salmon to be healthy. They want the trout to be healthy. So they catch them and then they release them. But if you're a brown trout, brown trout are invasive. But if you're you're a rainbow trout, and someone catches
Monster
you,
Math
and
presents.
they take you on some 200-yard run down this river as they're trying to draw you in. It's a big 9-pound rainbow, catch of a lifetime,
Beautiful
right?
time.
And some guy pulls it on, takes pictures of it, shows it, and then releases it. And then this thing's like, how the fuck did I get here? What am I doing outside of my universe?
Yeah.
What am I doing in this other dimension of air where I can't breathe?
Precisely. Yeah, and that's catch and release.
Catch and release with people.
Travis Walton says, you got to think of them as just people from over there. They're just
he's
people
the
from
guy
over
the
there.
Fire in the Sky movie was based on. He's got another interesting story. Here's what I want people
credibility
to think.
there, and credibility with Barney and Betty. I just don't think they're lying. And I don't think the Ariel school children are lying.
I don't want to think they're lying. This is the problem that I have with it. I want to believe them. But this is what I want people to consider, because most people that are pragmatic, reasonable people that don't want to be ridiculed, they look at these stories and they go, "Oh, come on, people are full of shit." And I've been there too. But I want people to imagine that if aliens did occasionally visit Earth, how often do you think this would take place? And how it would be very infrequently. And if it was happening, these would be completely unique, unusual occurrences out of nowhere, where someone would come down, they would do something, and they would be leaving the person with this thought and this memory and this inability to describe it with normal words. If you were taken aboard a spaceship and you were some reptilian beings that were 3 feet tall were running experiments on you and you were paralyzed, and then they released you back on Earth, what words do you have available to you to describe this experience in a way that, like, if you tell me, "Hey, Joe, I went whitewater rafting with my kids. It was a great time. It was so fun. We got to see eagles, and it was gorgeous. And then we had lunch at this beautiful little cafe. What a great day!" I can envision this experience. I can see it. But if you tell me, "Hey, man, we went camping, and I woke up, and some alien had a finger in my ass."
The Allagash incident. They went camping, and they disappeared.
Quite a few of those, right?
There's hundreds of thousands. And here, I brought you a book. This is Bruce Maccabee's book. It's all the headlines from 1952, 432 reports given. And I'll address your specific question about people, how they relate their experiences and how genuine they feel in a second here. 432 reports given the Air Force in 1952 on aerial sightings, ships from other planet. We've got memos from the government here. Former Army pilots sees flying saucer by daylight, whatever was cited here. July 30 stories, fighter pilots at Newcastle say alert for more saucer reports. These are newspaper.
Yeah.
That's yours.
Well, newspapers never lie.
Well,
I don't know if you know that.
Well,
they never make fake stories.
Well,
they never talk shit about people.
The New York Times is pretty reliable. Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Keene are reporters for the New York Times, and they've been studying this phenomenon. They report very credibly on it. I'll tell you how an abductee's experience is related. I attended a lecture at the Fifth Avenue Medical Institute in Manhattan with my wife a few years ago. That would be about 15 years ago. And John Mack was the lecturer. You know, he wrote the book Abduction. He was the Harvard psychiatrist who wrote Abduction. You can get that up too, Abduction, John Mack.
Yes, I read that as well.
Yeah, and
that freaked a friend of mine out. She was a very pragmatic, non-UFO believing person, and we were working together on news radio, my friend Maura Tierney. And she came up to me and she goes like, "This book is freaking me the fuck out." And he wrote a second book as well. Didn't he die in a car accident?
John Mack,
I believe he died in a car accident.
Stepped off a curb in a small town in England, and he was struck by a car.
Yeah.
And 3 other John Macks died the same day in England.
Hey.
So you think people were whacking John Macks because he knew too much?
I don't know. Again, I was at this lecture. And there were 300 abductees there. That some who he'd interviewed with, some he had not, but who were there for interested to find out a bit more about their experience. And one guy got up and said he had one arm, and I don't know whether that was related. I don't think it was related to the experience, but he said, "I'm a Wall Street broker. I'm quite well off. I have a sailboat. I was in Long Island Sound a few years ago, and a blue light hit me, and I had missing time of about 5 or 6 hours. But in it, I have filtrated memories of beings addressing me and telling me that I was powerful and influential and I could help the planet survive. And they put me back in my ship, and I woke up, and he said, "I'm waiting for them to come back. I want them to come back." And I asked the room, I got up and I said, "Of all of you who've been taken, how many of you would want to repeat the experience or have it happen again?" And about half of them said, no way they'd want to have it happen again. And half said, "Yeah, we'd like it to happen."
Half?
Yeah. Half, yeah.
Now, I love a
So
good
Bruce signed this to me, and I'm going to give it to you. And it's just got great. It's got great headlines from the 50s, which was a massive time for saucers. You know that famous photo of the saucers over the Capitol, the glowing lights, and
See if you can find that photo, Jimmy. Because it is quite interesting.
July 1952, Washington.
Do you think this was initiated by the detonation of the atomic bombs at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where they decided, okay, these fucking monkeys are doing some stupid shit. We need to go down there and see what's up and see if there's imminent danger to the cosmos. Let's find out what kind of capabilities they have. Because if you listen to Lazar, or if you believe the work of Zecharia Sitchin, or any of the people that believe that human beings were engineered, that there's the reason why there's this giant leap between us and the rest of the primates on the planet is because something came down and manipulated our genetics.
Well, the movie Mission to Mars with Tim Robbins, basically it says that. Basically it shows the face on Mars, and that is one of NASA employees' favorite movies. Yeah, there they are. Yeah. 1952 UFO incident. Thank you very much.
Look at that photo. That is a crazy
beautiful
photo.
Come on, let's go here now,
That's crazy.
folks. Yeah, that ain't an airplane. That ain't a helicopter.
No. It's a crazy photograph, and it's from 1952. I mean, the special effects back then were incredibly crude.
No,
this was something that was reported by
thousands of people. They scrambled jets from Andrews for it and everything.
As well as the Phoenix Lights.
The Phoenix Lights is fascinating because the Fife Symington, the governor, said he saw them. He made fun of it with an alien.
Yeah, but he
dummy.
talked about that afterwards. Yeah. He was put under pressure to do so.
Yeah.
He's in a movie called, what is it? There's a documentary on Netflix that's available that he's in, that he talks about the pressure that they put on him to make light of that incident, and he talks about his own personal experiences with seeing some sort of triangle-shaped craft that was enormous, the size of several football fields. It was flying overhead, that was completely silent, and how it freaked him out.
The triangle and delta crafts are very, very interesting. But the Tinley Park incidents of the 80s, and with Sam Maranto as the investigator there from MUFON, these things would park over the family barbecue for about half an hour, and families in suburbs were looking up at the sky being blotted out by these things parked above them.
TVs.
So
Joe,
I think it comes down to. I don't think these beings. Lord Hill Norton said there were 23 different species visiting the planet in 23 different types of ships. I don't think they want a formal relationship with people on Earth. They want an informal, secret relationship. I think they probably have one with elements of black elements of the Air Force and the government. You know who David Sarita is?
I've heard his
David Sarita. You should have him on. He's very knowledgeable about this. His theory is that the Roswell event may have been precipitated by the Trinity explosion because there was such an interdimensional disturbance of the atoms being split and that explosion. There was that saucer there that went down in 47 may have been influenced somehow negatively by that explosion. Now Stanton Friedman didn't buy that. I love Stanton. He just passed away there. He was the expert on Roswell.
Yeah, I'm upset that I never got to meet him before he died.
He was so credible.
An interesting guy who believed in UFOs, but believed most people were lying about them.
Really?
Yeah. Well, he believed that there was a lot of horseshit going on, including Bob Lazar. He thought Bob Lazar was full of shit.
Why would Bob go out there and do that and compromise his life?
Let me tell you something. After talking to him for 3 hours and then having dinner with him the night before, I used to believe I had the best bullshit meter in the world, but as I've gotten older, I've gotten more honest. I didn't see anything. He's an incredibly smart guy, and he's not a guy who's like seeking out attention. He's not profiting from this. In fact,
just his demeanor and everything.
I put a lot of time into it, dude.
He's a legitimate scientist.
Yeah.
And I've talked to him. One of the things that I engaged him with when we had dinner, we talked about science, just science in general. And we talked about all sorts of different things. And he's a scientist.
Really
he's a
cool,
legit
dude.
scientist. I've talked to a lot of them.
Yeah.
I know what kind of person he is.
And they just hassled him again there. They rated his nuclear isotope.
They think he has element 115. That's what they think.
Wouldn't we all love to have that?
Yeah, that's what they think. That's some artist.
I'll take it, yo. Let's go.
Element 115.
Yeah, element 115, indeed. Well, if you get a little sliver of that, that would be pretty exciting. Yeah.
He talked openly about it in the 90s that he had managed to weasel some away from the Area S4, and they think that he still has it.
Yeah.
There were some experiments that he had done that George Knapp had actually filmed that it showed some really bizarre distortions using this stuff, and then it was able to. I got to remember exactly what it did that they showed, but they did some experiments with like steam or smoke or something like that, where they showed element 115 emitting some sort of
vapor.
Well, no, it was emitting some sort of a field where you literally couldn't physically touch this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, Max. Insane journey. Oh, wow. I just leave that up there. Who's watching me? Well, full cup of water. I know. Right now, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And these are just what's showing up. Anxiety. It's actually anxiety. I have anxiety. But when the body's under stress, which is a natural response. To have levels of anxiety. And I never really felt it until I started can't attribute it all to it, but yeah, big shift. Random Thursday with Joe Scott. Uh-oh. German Shepherd challenges everybody in the room. If the world is a simulation, can we hack it? Okay, so you can create the world from a simulation. Hack it. Yeah. Can we hack the world if it's a simulation? Couple years, yeah. This has been in circulation.
Having a hard time finding the right words? WordTune helps you translate your thoughts into words.
Hey,
we understand what you were
WordTune.
trying to say and provide tailored suggestions to make your writing more clear, compelling, and authentic.
Ooh,
You can also choose what tone you'd
teleprompters.
like to strike, and our tailored suggestions will help you get there. Yeah,
Decline
it's pretty
skit. No, I watched it. Simulation thing is really they just talk about it with no substance. Like it's one of those things. But do I have the answers to that? Okay, Joshua Bach.
What is dualism? What is idealism? What is
Whoa.
materialism? What is
Whoa.
functionalism? And what
Whoa.
connects with you most? In terms of, because you just mentioned there's a
The
reality we
fourth
don't have
one
access
is
to.
the
Okay.
difficult.
What does that even mean? And why don't we get access to it? Aren't we
Wasn't
part of that
even
reality?
thinking
Why, don't
either.
we, why
I
can't we
mean,
access it?
didn't mean to over.
So the particular trajectory that mostly exists in the West is the result of our indoctrination by a cult for 2,000 years.
A cult? Which
Yes,
one? Oh,
the Catholic cult mostly.
Yes.
And for better or worse, right? It has created or defined many
Occult
of the modes of
necklaces.
interaction that we have that has created this society, but it has also, in some sense, scarred our rationality. And the intuition that exists, if you would translate the mythology of the Catholic Church into the modern world, is that the world in which you and me interact is something like a multiplayer role-playing adventure.
Yes.
And the money and the objects that we have in this world, this is all not real. or as Eastern philosophers would say, it's Maya. It's just stuff that appears to be meaningful, and this embedding in this meaning, if you believe in it, is samsara. It's basically the identification with the needs of the mundane, secular, everyday existence. And the Catholics also introduced the notion of higher meaning, the sacred. And this existed before, but eventually the natural shape of God is the Platonic form of the civilization that you're part of. It's basically the superorganism that is formed by the individuals as an intentional agent. And basically the Catholics used a relatively crude mythology to implement software on the minds of people and get the software synchronized to make them walk in lockstep. To basically get this God online and to make it efficient and effective. And I think God technically is just a self that spans multiple brains, as opposed to your and myself, which mostly exists just on one brain, right? Yeah. And so in some sense you can construct a self functionally as a function that is implemented by brains that exists across brains. And this is a God with a small g.
That's one of the, Yuval Harari kind of talking about
wow.
the nice features of our brains. It seems that we can all download the same piece of software, like God in this case, and kind of share it.
Yeah, so basically you give everybody a spec, and the mathematical constraints that are intrinsic to information processing make sure that given the same spec, you come up with a compatible structure.
Okay, so there's a space of ideas that we all share, and we think that's kind of the mind. But that's separate from the idea is from Christianity, from religion, is that there's a separate thing between the mind.
There is a real world, and this real world is the world in which God exists. God is the coder of the multiplayer adventure, so to speak, and we are all players in this game. And
that's dualism. You would say.
But the dualist aspect is because the mental realm exists in a different implementation than the physical realm. And the mental realm is real. And a lot of people have this intuition that there is this real room in which you and me talk and speak right now. Then comes a layer of physics and abstract rules and so on. And then comes another real room where our souls are. And our true form is the thing that gives us phenomenal experience. And this is, of course, a very confused notion that you would get. And it's the result of connecting materialism and idealism in the wrong way.
So, okay, I apologize, but...
Oh, you're telling me shit.
Define.
Joe?
Try to define terms. Like, what is dualism, what is idealism, what is materialism, for people who don't know?
So the idea of dualism in our cultural tradition is that there are two substances, a mental substance and a physical substance, and they interact by different rules. And the physical world is basically causally closed and is built on a low-level causal structure. So there's basically a bottom level that is causally closed, that's entirely mechanical. And mechanical in the widest sense, so it's computational. There's basically a physical world in which information flows around, and physics describes the laws of how information flows around in this world.
Would you compare it to like a computer where you have a hardware and software?
Computer is a generalization of information flowing around. Basically, what Turing discovered, that there is a universal principle, you can define this universal machine, that is able to perform all the computations. So all these machines have the same power. This means that you can always define a translation between them, as long as they have unlimited memory, to be able to perform each other's computations.
So would you then say that this whole world is just the hardware, and idealism is this whole world is just the software?
Not quite. I think that most idealists don't have a notion of software yet, because software also comes down to information processing. Right, so what you notice is the only thing that is real to you and me is this experiential world in which things matter, in which things have taste, in which things have color, phenomenal content, and so on. And you realize
bringing up consciousness, okay.
I just need
is distinct
safety.
From the physical world, in which things have values, only in an abstract sense.
I'm only really trying to help
look at
educate. And not even educate,
moving
just
around.
help.
So how does anything feel like something? And this connection between the two things is very puzzling to a lot of people, and of course to many philosophers. So idealism starts out with the notion that mind is primary, materialism thinks that matter is primary. Yes. And so for the idealist, the material patterns that we see playing out are part of the dream that the mind is dreaming. And we exist in a mind on a higher plane of existence, if you want. Mm-hmm. And for the materialist, there is only this material thing, and that generates some models, and we are the
This
result
to
of
my
these models.
interpretation is
And
a
in some sense, I
Lord,
don't think
man.
that we should understand, if
But-
we understand it properly, materialism and
Takes away from-
idealism is a dichotomy, but as two different aspects of the same thing. So the weird thing is we don't exist in the physical world. We do exist inside of a story that the brain tells itself.
Okay, let me.
No, I was just excited, man. I really am. You know, I know what I've
take
like.
that in. We don't exist in the physical world. We exist in the narrative.
Unable
Basically,
to.
a brain cannot feel anything. A neuron cannot feel anything. They're physical things. Physical systems are unable to experience anything. But it would be very useful for the brain or for the organism to know what it would be like to be a person and to feel something.
Yeah.
So the brain creates a simulacrum of such a person that it uses to model the interactions of the person. It's the best model of what that brain, this organism, thinks it is in relationship to its environment. So it creates that model. It's a story, a multimedia novel that the brain is continuously writing and updating.
But you also kind of said that. You said that we kind of exist in that.
In that story, yes.
In that story.
We are
What
virtual.
is real in any of this? So like, there's again, these terms are. You kind of said there's a quantum graph. I mean, what is this whole thing running on then? Is the story, and is it completely fundamentally impossible to get access to it? Because isn't the story supposed to? Isn't the brain in something, existing in some kind of context?
So what we can identify as computer scientists, we can engineer systems and test our theories this way that may have the necessary and sufficient properties to produce the phenomena that we are observing, which is there is a self in a virtual world that is generated in somebody's neocortex who that is contained in the skull of this primate here. And when I point at this indexicality is of course wrong. But I do create something that is likely to give rise to patterns on your retina that allow you to interpret what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we both know that the world that you and me are seeing is not the real physical world. What we are seeing is a virtual reality generated in your brain to explain the patterns on your retina.
How close is it to the real world? That's kind of the question. Is it when you have like people like Donald Hoffman, that's to say that like that you're really far away. The thing we're seeing, you and I now, that interface we have is very far away from anything. Like we don't even have anything close like to the sense of what the real world is. Or is it a very surface piece of architecture?
Imagine you look at the Mandelbrot fractal,
Real
right? This
world.
famous thing that Bernard Mandelbrot
Yes,
discovered.
Mandelbrot, yes.
If you see an overall shape in there, right? But you know that if you truly understand it, you know it's 2 lines of code. It's basically in a series that is being tested for complex numbers in the complex number plane for every point. And for those where the series is diverging, you paint this black.
Yes.
And where it's converging, you don't. And you get the intermediate colors by checking how far it diverges.
Yes.
Right? Gives you this shape of this fractal. But imagine you live inside of this fractal and you don't have access to where you are in the fractal.
Wow.
Or you have not discovered the generator
You guys
function
are-
even. Right? So what you see is all I can see right now is a spiral, and the spiral moves a little bit to the right. Is this an accurate model of reality? Yes, it is, right? It is an adequate description. You know that there is actually no spiral in the Mandelbrot fractal. It only appears like this to an observer that is interpreting things as a 2-dimensional space and then defines
I've
certain
been in here,
irregularities in
man.
there at a certain scale that it currently observes, because if you zoom in, the spiral might disappear and turn out to be something different at a different resolution, right?
Yes.
So at this level, you have the spiral, and then you discover the spiral moves to the right, and at some point it disappears. So you have a singularity. At this point, your model is no longer valid. You cannot predict what happens beyond the singularity. But you can observe again, and you will see it hit another spiral, and at this point it disappeared. So maybe now have a second order law. And if you make 30 layers of these laws, then you have a description of the world that is similar to the one that we come up with when we describe the reality around us. It's reasonably predictive. It does not cut to the core of it. It does not explain how it's being generated, how it actually works. But it's relatively good to explain the universe that we are entangled with.
But you don't think the tools of computer science, the tools of physics could step outside, see the whole drawing, and get at the basic mechanism of how the pattern, the spirals are generated?
imagine you would find yourself embedded into a motherboard fractal and you try to figure out what works, and you somehow have a Turing machine with enough memory to think, and as a result you come to this idea it must be some kind of automaton, and maybe you just enumerate all the possible automata until you get to the one that produces your reality.
Yeah.
So you can identify necessary and sufficient condition. For instance, we discover that mathematics itself is the domain of all languages.
Yeah.
And then we see that most of the domains of mathematics that we have discovered are in some sense describing the same fractals. This is what category theory is obsessed about, that you can map these different domains to each other. So there are not that many fractals. And some of these have interesting structural and symmetry breaks. And so you can discover what region of this global fractal you might be embedded in from first principles.
Yes.
But the only way you can get there is from first principles. So basically, your understanding of the universe has to start with automata and then number theory and then spaces and so on.
Yeah, I think like Stephen Wolfram still
I
dreams that
did it.
you'll be able to arrive at the fundamental rules of the cellular automata, or the generalization of which is behind our universe.
Yeah.
You've said on this topic, you said in a recent conversation that, quote, some people think that a simulation can't be conscious and only a physical system
No, it is,
can.
man, and I
But they
really
got it completely
genuinely.
backward. A physical system cannot be conscious. Only a simulation can be conscious.
Yeah.
Consciousness is a simulated property of the simulated self. Just like you said, the mind is kind of we'll call it story narrative. There's a simulation, so our mind is essentially a simulation.
Usually, I try to use the terminology so that the mind is basically the principles that produce the simulation. It's the software that is implemented by your brain.
Yes.
And the mind is creating both the universe that we are in and the self. The idea of a person that is on the other side of attention and is embedded in this world.
Why is that important, that idea of a self? Why is that an important feature in the simulation?
It's basically a result of the purpose that the mind has. It's a tool for modeling, right? We're not actually monkeys. We are side effects of the regulation needs of monkeys. And what the monkey has to regulate is the relationship of an organism to an outside world that is in large part also consisting of other organisms. And as a result, it basically has regulation targets that it tries to get to. These regulation targets start with priors. They're basically like unconditional reflexes that we are more or less born with. And then we can reverse engineer them to make them more consistent. And then we get more detailed models about how the world works and how to interact with it.
Amazing.
And so these priors that you commit to are largely target values that our needs should approach, set points. And this deviation to the set point creates some urge, some tension. And we find ourselves living inside of feedback loops, right? Consciousness emerges over dimensions of disagreements with the universe. Things where you care, things are not the way they should be, where you need to regulate. And so in some sense, the sense itself is the result of all the identifications that you're having. And identification is a regulation target that you're committing to. It's a dimension that you care about, that you think is important. And this is also what locks you in. If you let go of these commitments, of these identifications, you get free. There's nothing that you have to do anymore. And if you let go of all of them, you're completely free and you can enter nirvana because you're done.
And actually, this is a good time to pause and say thank you to sort of a friend of mine, Gustav Soderstrom, who introduced me to your work. I wanted to give him a shout out. He's a brilliant guy, and
Lex.
I think the AI community is actually quite amazing, and Gustav is a good representative of that.
God
you are as
fucking
well.
damn
So
it, though.
I'm
Are
glad-
you
first of all, I'm glad the
serious? Are
internet
you guys
exists to use this
serious?
record. Why?
Holy shit, this is insane.
The results strongly support that these beings are not closely related to any known organism on Earth.
He was able to detect the fetus of some creature. It is not human.
We will piece together the ascension teachings and disclosure of extraterrestrial beings by the Essenes.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Been in some hairy situation on cliffs where storms rolled in, blacked out, and just had to hunker down in like a cave, right? And just wait it out, but nothing horrible. The kidney stone was bad, but really like some of the things you'd think that would happen. if I die back there, it's probably not gonna be from a bear. I'm probably gonna fall off a cliff. Like that's the one thing that I would guess would happen.
That's how Cam's buddy Roy died.
Yeah, what's his
sheep hunt?
Serious. That one there is probably worse than any. The chances of having a bear eat you is so slim, but lightning and cliffs are probably the worst ones.
Yeah, lightning is another fucking scary one, huh? But that's a normal experience out there. There's lightning storms.
Yeah, in that one area, the Sangre de Cristos is a mountain range, and it's like scientifically worse there because of the heat from the ground and the cold from above. The lightning storms there, we go down there just to photograph.
What do you do if you're in a lightning storm? Do you get near trees? Because if you get near trees, what if the trees get hit?
I'm gonna give you horrible advice. I don't do shit. I just get in my tent and do my thing.
Really? So when there's a lightning storm, you just lay in your tent and hope it doesn't hit you?
Well, I mean, the reality of it is as they blow over, you may be causing, and I'm not an expert at this, it's just if it's my time, it's my time, so I just get in and I listen to an audiobook and try to pretend it's not there. And that is probably horrible advice, but
That's
the reality
really
is,
horrible,
my
dude.
buddy,
This is really dark, dude. That's fucked up,
What
man.
audiobook
Like,
would you listen to when you're almost dying from a lightning storm?
The Crow Killer, Jeremiah Johnson.
Oh, damn, you're getting serious mountain man.
Yeah. That one helps me go to sleep. That dude's voice helps me go to sleep. So, but my buddy, which I don't know if I can say his name because he's on an ODA team. Him and his buddy, this fucking guys get hit with lightning in the spot where we killed the bull, and he texts me and he said something about this reminded me of, I think he got hit with an RPG or something. And I'm like, well,
oh, RPG shit, dude.
like,
Fuck.
It's a hell of a build up to a story with no finish, right? He's got scars where the lightning came out of its. Oh no, that's where it entered, and then it blew the front of his buddy's shoe out. What? Fucking they hiked out.
Hit him in the back and blew his buddy's shoe off.
Because they hit them both at the same time. And so I would guess they were probably more trained than I was, and whatever they did didn't work. So anymore, Frank and I just hunkered down and I listened to an audiobook.
Remy Warren got hit with lightning in high school, if I remember correctly. And I think he lost his sense of smell.
No shit.
Yeah, something wacky like that.
Remember that movie with, what was it? The big dude, the actor, where the guy gets hit lightning, he's like 6 times, and he's like, "Oh, you've been hit with lightning 6 times?" He's like, "No, 66 times." You remember that shit, John Candy?
Yeah.
The Great Outdoors.
Well, there's a guy that has been hit like a record number of times. There's one. See if you can find that. There's one dude that, for whatever reason, they don't know what they don't understand it, but he's been hit by lightning multiple times. It's not because he's looking for it. Like he's particularly attractive to lightning for some strange reason.
I think I'm particularly attracted
How
to
many
black
times?
bears.
7 times.
Good God.
Yeah, come on, man. So Roy Cleveland Sullivan, he died in 1983, United States Park Ranger in Shenandoah National Park in Virginia between 1942 and 1977. Sullivan was hit by lightning on 7 different occasions and survived all of them.
Wow.
I would go home and talk to my wife and see if she put some voodoo on me.
That reminds me of that saying I have: if it was raining pussy, you get hit in the head with a dick. That guy's bad luck.
Yeah,
That is
7
horrible.
times. It's crazy. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
I just don't worry about it though anymore.
What'd you say, Jamie?
Get zapped once. Jamie!
Another guy's like, I'll show you, pussy.
No, Jamie!
Put a fucking metal hat on.
Yeah, it's just, I think though, you get desensitized to different things, and lightning is definitely one where I just kind of hang out in the tent. And
It cooks you from the inside out like being in a microwave, he says. Man 61 survives being struck by lightning 10 times. Melvin Roberts made headlines in 2011 for being hit 6 times in 1 year. Wife said he's been struck another 4 times. South Carolina man suffered memory loss, headaches, speech problems, and has nerve damage in his hands and leg. Like, I'm so confused. I don't understand why it keeps hitting him. Let me see what that guy looks like. Yeah. He looks like a guy who's been hit by lightning 10 times.
Wow.
yeah, because usually it'll blow the end of your toes off.
Really?
Yeah, where it
A
exits.
single lightning strike is made up of several 100 million volts.
Damn.
What the fuck, man?
Yeah, we've been on in lightning
100
strikes where they hit
million.
trees close by. It just blows them up into shrapnel. It's pretty wild.
How does it not kill people?
Yeah, that's where it exited the toe.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Nerve damage in his leg and foot as a
Damn.
result of the lightning strikes.
Sometimes you could.
That might change your idea.
It says
of
Roy
going.
Sullivan is the current world record holder and then he was hit 7 times. The guy that we were talking about. He died in 1983 by his own hand. Oh no,
that's not good.
Yeah, you gotta wonder like what's
Died?
left
Wow.
after you've been hit 7 times. Like your shit must be scrambled.
I don't know, man, but those are the things that'll probably get you. You know, like talking about bears is like the last thing I worry about. Lightning's that's a real problem.
Damn, yo, 7
Is there a
heaven.
way to get it to hit something else? Like if you're in your tent, would it hit the tent and not you, or would it just go right through the tent?
I think it'd go through the tent. I saw it hit an old growth tree once and blow a 180-foot tall tree into pieces, and I'm like, oh, that did not look appealing. You know, as a
Watched
kid.
it happen?
Yeah, and that's not uncommon either. Because if you have service, you can see where it's going, right? Like the one that passed 2 years ago, I knew
Hey,
Frank was
man,
fucked because he was going
that's
by
crazy,
me,
dude.
literally 400
Thank
yards,
you.
and I'm watching cloud to ground, and I'm like, texting Frank, I'm like, dude, buckle your shit up, it's coming, and it went right in front of me and over Frank, and Frank's so funny. He literally called me. He's like, I'm okay, sir, and I'm like, how'd it go? He's like, that was not cool, and he had video of it striking. All around him. But the thing, like he said, is where's he going to go? Because he's just running into a storm, right? You're not going to outrun it.
What do you do? What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to go near
supposed to
trees?
get into depression.
Get the fuck out of a storm, yo.
To a depression, like some sort of a valley? What's it say, Jim?
I was reading through Roy Sullivan's Wikipedia. It says he got struck 2 other times. Once when he was a kid, but it didn't hurt him, so he didn't claim it. And then another time, his wife got struck while he was helping her with the clothes, but he didn't get hurt that time either. So I guess he didn't claim that time.
What, is he a fucking alien? Like, why would one guy get hit so many times?
I'm trying to read why it says, but like there's no reasoning why or anything like that.
That's so weird. Like, what about a person's biological makeup would be so different that lightning would be attracted to them?
I don't know. He's got some serious static electricity. The thing is, like with, the more you're out there, epic shit happens. Well, I guess you might not consider it epic, but I mean, the more
he's a park ranger,
right? That's what I mean. Like you're out there, and then you think about how much time I'm out there. Crazy shit's gonna happen if you're in the woods a lot. I mean, there's the Wolverine.
Yeah,
it's a 1 in a billion chance. From
Yeah,
that.
crazy
that's
shit out there.
Literally, but the more you're out there, shit's gonna happen.
The woods. Boy Scouts.